to have ample time to state their case, but I'd like you to kind of measure your time. I don't like to set the clock, as I like to give people ample time to state their case, but I'd like for you to kind of measure around 3 minutes, and kind of be expedient, if you will, make your case, and so we can move on with regard to proper time for all those that are here tonight. So I always like to introduce our planning commission planning commissioners. Commissioner Northcross is not here yet. Commissioner Cadd is excused. Honorable Mayor Dr. Deirdre Waterman is to my far left. City Planning Manager Vern Gustafson is to my immediate left. Mona Parlov to my far right. Commissioner Lucy Payne next, and then I'm Chairman Dane Thomas. So, Mr. Gustafson, roll call, please.
Sure. Chair Thomas?
Present.
Vice Chair Fagley? She was excused. Commissioner Cadd? Excused. Commissioner Northcross? I'll say excused. He should be here. He said he was going to. Commissioner Parlov?
Present.
Commissioner Payne?
Present.
And Mayor Waterman?
Present.
Okay, we do have a quorum.
We have a quorum, okay. I see in here approval of agenda. We must be...
Right. We've decided to, lately we've been having to either add in an item or remove an item right at the meeting. So on this particular case, we did have an amended agenda coming out today. With that, I just want to make sure that we approve. There is no other additions or deletions at this time. The amended agenda is the correct agenda.
Okay, so everyone has the agenda. We need to take a vote, correct?
Correct.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the amended agenda, please?
I make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
May we have a second?
Second.
We have motion, second support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No nays?
Okay.
Motion passes.
Beautiful.
Okay, next is communications, and so, Mr. Gustafson, I will turn this to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair Thomas. This is for the commission to give you an update in regards to a packaged liquor license that was received, that was granted an appeal, actually, from City Council. Back on April 3rd, the Planning Commission denied a special exemption permit, and the information that I'm referring to is attached with the amended agenda, that the Planning Commission, after reviewing, and based on our technical review, public comments, and also from the Commission themselves, we scheduled a vote. It was a unanimous vote, 5-0, to deny the special exemption permit to sell packaged liquor at Joslin Beverage. Rationale was it didn't meet the ordinance requirements. There was 2 churches located within 500 feet, plus within the mile of that liquor store, there was already 3 existing beverage, alcoholic beverage businesses that were located there. Within the applicant did submit a request to appeal the Planning Commission decision within the 10 days that are required according to the ordinance, and was submitted to me as required. On July 16th, the City Council granted an appeal to allow the sale of liquor at that particular store. They already had beer and wine at that particular establishment. The mayor, following that meeting, did prepare a veto resolution to appeal of the SCP, a special exemption permit to sell liquor. And then what happened is that following that veto, the mayor read into the minutes the veto and the rationale. Obviously didn't meet the ordinance requirements. Myself particularly, planning manager was not heard and was not able to build our case to explain that we are in violation of our ordinances by granting this appeal. The council did vote, a supermajority of 5 votes, over the mayor's veto and approved that appeal to grant that SDD packaged liquor license. They then, in turn, following that evening, they passed another resolution asking the city attorney to craft language as relates to packaged liquor sales, either in the municipal code or in the zoning ordinance, and our city attorney is still figuring that out. But they're kind of, now that they've undid this and voted against the ordinances, now they want to make the changes. There's been some recent laws from the Liquor Control Commission that kind of relaxed those standards, so council would like to kind of take a look at that closer and see how it could make adjustments in our proper zoning ordinance or municipal codes. So it's kind of a cart, it's kind of the cart before the horse in regards to allowing this, and still very surprised that they would go against the Planning Commission's decision, our Planning Division's technical review, and also for the fact that we really did not have an opportunity to build our case in front of them, even though they did have the information. So with that being said, I just want to bring this forth to you, ask you in regards to, I want to hear what your bigger thoughts are. I want to hear what we should do in regards to the next steps from our standpoint as a planning commission, and directing me in regards to where to go the next step. Madam Mayor, if since you were sitting there at the meeting, if you would like to include any further remarks, please.
I'd be happy to do so in order to help to expedite consideration of this particular matter, because I know we have a full schedule here. But I bring this this communication that you have in your packet that is part of the information about this particular item that has been prepared by the Planning Department. It includes the statement I made for the veto. And I might read this into the record here. I think because I sat on the Planning Commission when Planning Commission did hand the additional denial, was also at the meeting in which the city planner, as per his responsibility, was attempting to discuss the item and was not allowed to do so, which was troubling for me at the time. And also, after council did go ahead and vote on it anyway, and they did so with a statement afterwards about how, from the pro tem, I think, who said, city doesn't have to obey its own ordinances. That was kind of troubling for me to ferret that all out. So I will read the veto statement for that, that I did, to read it into the record now. The reason this communication is here before the council, the commission, is because it poses a problem for commissioners who try to decide things based upon the ordinances and the laws as they stand. And if there's a different standard for some people, that poses a problem for us, because if we deny certain people on the basis of the standard, and then somehow, for some unknown reason to us, someone else gets granted that, then we have a problem in terms of what the risk to us is, as well as to the city, because if we're not applying the same fair standards. Now, the council did admit that they had not pertained to the proper protocol and the ordinance by the fact that they then said to the city attorney, as you have here in your packet, please redraft the ordinance so it will cover us for what we did. But that's probably putting the wrong sequence of events in. And so it doesn't sustain to help us make sure they were following the right procedures. So for your purposes, and maybe the Planning Commission, if others are feeling that they are in that same quandary as I felt, how we need to be guided by these decisions, then perhaps there should be some communication, maybe through the planner from the Planning Commission to council, helping us to understand what these parameters and how they are set. So I will read into the record my particular thoughts about it. Of course, I'm just one vote on Planning Commission, and I will share that with the commissioners, and you can do as you feel comfortable with doing that. But this was a statement that I issued that reads as follows. On July 16, 2019, the City Council approved an appeal of the Planning Commission decision to grant a special designated distributor license at parcel number 64-14-16-402-030, also known as 1124 Joslyn Avenue, for the applicant. I am vetoing this item not only due to this uncertainty, but also for several other reasons. The Planning Commission has used the same criteria obligated by this zoning ordinance in the past to reject other applicants who did not meet the criteria, and City Council has upheld those rejections. In this case, it is uncertain why this applicant was not held to the same standards as other applicants in the past. It is even more troubling when viewed in the context that the council president went to extraordinary means to prevent any discussion on this matter. The Planning Division reviewed the requirements set forth in Section 2.515 of the zoning ordinance and Section 10.188 of the Pontiac Municipal Code, and determined that the proposed sale of packaged liquor does not comply at that site with the City of Pontiac zoning ordinance. The sale of packaged alcoholic beverages is prohibited to be located less than 500 feet from the property of a place of worship, park, playground, daycare facility, preschool, or K-12 school. St. Paul Community Lutheran Church and the Bible Fellowship Christian Church are located within 500 feet of 1124 Joslyn Avenue. No more than 2 properties which sell packaged alcoholic beverages are permitted within 1 mile. Currently, 3 retail stores, Joslyn Market Trademark Liquor and King Liquor, sell packaged alcoholic beverages within 1 mile of Joslyn Beverage located at 1124 Joslyn Avenue. On April 3, 2019, a public hearing was held. The Planning Commission voted 5-0 to deny the request to sell packaged liquor at 1124 Joslyn Avenue. At City Council meeting on July 16, 2019, the planning manager was not recognized to present the Planning Division's technical review and Planning Commission's reasons to deny the special exemption permit request to sell packaged liquor at 1124 Joslyn Avenue. In addition, there seemed to be a rush to judgment with Council President chairing the meeting, censoring any discussion about this agenda item and refusing to allow anyone to speak about the issue or their concerns. As mayor, I even attempted to indicate there was a point of order in question that was not recognized and indeed was shouted down, who proceeded to the vote despite all objections. It is also noted that although this was just the first action item of many on the evening's agenda, both Councilwoman Patrice Waterman and Councilwoman Mary Pidela left the meeting, seemingly deciding not to participate in the vote. Signed, Mayor Deirdre Waterman.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me, before I go to my fellow commissioners, I would say this is unprecedented and that we were overruled without cause. I have been consistent, and this commission has been consistent, basically not looking favorably upon combining liquor with gas. You know, to kind of put it in perspective, there isn't anyone going into a gas station to buy a top shelf bottle of cognac or bourbon, or maybe a 20-year-old $100 bottle of single malt scotch. You know, the contrary, they're basically looking to pick up a 2.5-ounce airline bottle of vodka or something of that nature, and it's drink and go. So that's reckless and it's imprudent, and basically I've stood by the idea, if you want to open a liquor store, there are plenty of places to open a liquor store. But the idea of putting liquor and gas together is not favorable in my opinion. I have voted against it virtually every time, and with cause. So those are my comments, and I'm going to welcome Commissioner Northcross and also seek his comments.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yes, I'm confused. One of the items I understand is that the Planning Commission serves to advise the City Council. And the advice is given with the understanding we're reviewing the city ordinances and other items to give some input to the city council and direction to the city council on different directions one should go in, particularly the land use of this city. I'm a little confused now about whether we're all in sync. There is this, in my mind, there's this question, this activity, but then we also have all of the work that we've done previously on the master plan, and we've amended the master plan to include the Safe Streets package. We're working now for the Parks package. There were a number of items that we suggested that the city council undertake in terms of ordinance revision, land use revision. All of this has not happened, and I'm just wondering, it looks like there's a reset that we need to bring about with the city council, the planning commission, and the citizens of Pontiac somehow. One of the things I would suggest is that we start talking about the revision of our master plan, which is due to occur. Maybe this is a good chance for us to talk about what current ordinances we have in place, what changes we want to make, and what we as a city see we need to do in terms of the land use to better the city. And let me explain what I mean by bettering the city is work to improve the certainty of development for all of our children in Pontiac. That is what I mean by the development of the city. Now, where other folks go, I don't know, and that's where we may need to discuss this. But right now, boy, I'm thinking maybe there needs to be a major reset to occur.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Farrell, please.
Thank you, Dane. Thank you, Mayor Waterman and Vern, for bringing all this information forth. And to say I'm a bit confused is an understatement. This is completely nonsensical to me. I don't understand how these dots are connecting together. If the ordinance is what it is, and that's how we've been advised to consider information when it comes to us from petitioners, and we do that, and then when we release our decision, and for no clear reason, the city council takes our decision and completely disregards it, apparently handles this decision in an unorthodox way in how they have considered it, and then, oh, by the way, moment, will the attorney please make sure that we've done what we've done in a proper fashion? This is crazy to me. So at this moment, I stand by the decision that we have made in the past. I looked over our package tonight. Nothing has changed. We still have the liquor stores that are more than the count that's allowed within the geographic location of this petitioner. We still have churches that are there. Nothing has changed. So why the city council feels that they can capriciously make this decision is nothing that I'm in agreement with. So I'll leave it at that for the moment.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Payne, please.
Good evening, and let me first thank the petitioners for their interest within the city of bringing businesses here. But I do have a concern, and I'm not confused, but I'm concerned. Because, first of all, we're supposed to be a healthy Pontiac, and I can't see liquor being sold at gas stations to be a healthy factor for not only the community, but the people that actually come through and pass through our city for gas, and they're able to get liquor. And I'm sure that if our Oakland County Sheriff officers were right there at the end of the driveway, that they could very easily end up catching people that who have been drinking bottles open. Not only that, the access that this brings for our youth in the city. These areas are very close to our neighborhoods. I just think that we need to, and the other thing that when I'm reading through this pack, I was very concerned that, first of all, the ordinance have already have their measurements within the ordinance, and then what we do is to accept an outside company to do our measurement or our surveys for us. That, to me, is not being a good representative of our city when we decide to let someone come in and make changes. One of the things that I came up with is that we need the committee for our ordinance to come about and look at this really closely and start finding out just exactly what is it that the city wishes to have. Would you like to have alcohol beverages on say, every other block? Because that's what's happening. I had one petitioner who actually came before us and said that this is a big business and it makes money. But it makes money on the cost. Who is that? What is the cost of this? It's our health. It's our children's health. It's the adults' health. I mean, is that really what we want within our city? Now, my understanding is that if you go in different cities, sometimes you just don't see this kind of thing happening in other cities. And maybe you may see, I read here that there was one gas station in, I think, Birmingham that had gas. That had gas and liquor. Okay, that's Birmingham. But here in the city, I would like for us to try to keep this a safe and healthy city, and I don't see that as being safe. And I'd like for us to stand our ground when it comes to making decisions about what's best for our city. And that's my
Thank you.
comments.
My closing comment is, as I've already stated and our commissioners have stated, that it's imprudent and arguably reckless to combine liquor and gas for the reasons that were stated. It also sets a legal precedent. So the next time we turn down a gas station liquor combination for cause, then that petitioner is going to come forward and say, oh, wait a second. No. You set a precedent because you approved so-and-so. So this needs to be corrected. If we're up here doing our research, going to these committees, looking at ordinances, making our decisions, then we need to have the council follow what we're doing or write a letter to us with cause. We need to meet with you. We are going to overrule, and here are the reasons why. And we didn't see that. I haven't seen it, and we're sitting here tonight discussing it. And we're going to talk about another case here on the first item, the next item on public hearings. So again, this is unprecedented, it's reckless, and it's imprudent. So my suggestion is that somehow a letter be written for the record, legal record, and so those are my final comments. Any further comments?
So where do we go from here is the question. Now what is my question?
Well, go ahead, Vern.
No, in talking with Dane a little bit about this, and obviously Mayor Waterman, I think we have the ability in regards to, we can't obviously reverse that decision, but we can go on record and explain to him the passion that I just heard from all of you here, that could be drafted in a letter and sent over to the council, addressed from you.
So
And
it's not going to change anything that happened at city council, but for us now, at this moment, as we're playing this out in real time, city council completely went around us, made this decision, approved this petitioner, and then said, oh, by the way, attorney, go fix this. And here now we sit with these petitions in front of us, and it makes me uncomfortable trying to render a decision until we get something that we know is accurate, because we're giving these people potentially inaccurate answers, and that's not fair to them either. So our hands are tied. This is crazy.
Yeah, and I think that also as part of, I'll be sitting and talking with our city attorney and talk to him a little bit further in regards to what other actions or what else he would suggest to recommend too, so.
Okay.
And we'll keep you updated in regards to that, even in between our meetings, our regularly scheduled meetings or any special meetings that we have, that I'll keep in communication with my commission to see what we do find.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
So, okay, without further ado, then, next item is minutes for review from June 26, 2019, and I'll go to Commissioner Northcross, please.
No changes.
Okay, Mayor Waterman, please.
No corrections?
Mayor, Mayor Farrell. Are you mayor now?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Parlow.
No changes.
Okay, Commissioner Payne.
No corrections.
I abstain because I didn't have time to read 130 pages a minute, so hopefully it all says what we thought it would say, and,
It does.
okay, may we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
May we have a second and support?
Second is support.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. No, any nays? Unanimous for yeses, and I guess we have a,
Yeah, we have a
unanimous.
5-0, yeah, we have approved.
okay, now we go to public hearings. The first item is item 6.1, zoning text amendment, temporary construction fencing ordinance, and Mr. Gustafson will present, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair Thomas. In front of the commission, we've been, it's been discussed for a little bit of period of time. Not a big change, but I think a significant in regards to something that maybe should have been on our books a while ago. And basically, it deals with temporary construction fencing. So what this is will be placed within our zoning ordinance. As you can see on this chart, represents kind of, for any type of plan, either an administrative review, a sketch plan review, or a full site plan review, it will be required of an applicant to provide us with information as relates to temporary construction fencing. So when we have, would be required to be installed, as relates to residential and also non-residential construction sites. Okay? And the purpose, as we can imagine, is it's important in regards to ensuring security and safety, and particularly as people are walking by on the public streets or in the street, so they're not into the construction areas where improvements are being made. So on that particular case, on any residential or non-residential site that has either some site grading, excavation, building construction, renovation, demolition, will be required to put up this temporary construction fencing at the beginning of a project and be taken down before the certificate of occupancy is granted by our building official. And this would be installed along the perimeter of the site unless it is, say if it's a basement, a house is being demoed for a period, and the snow fencing would have to go up for a period of time. And what I was referring to is that particularly residential. Residential would require a 4-foot snow fencing, the orange snow fencing, around the areas that are either going to be renovated, improved, or demoed. That would be done. What we found is with the obviously small, narrow sites we have in the city, that, we just can't, it's difficult to install 6-foot chain link fencing and everything like that, so that's why we went with the snow fencing on non-residential sites. On residential sites. On residential sites, we would require a 6-foot chain link fence, all gated, with a vinyl or a mesh type of screening around the entire site. Okay? So what this ordinance does is it breaks it down in regards to general provisions. It also gets into exactly what type of permitted materials that I just had mentioned that are allowed with either in non-residential or residential, and prohibited materials. In other words, you can't have plywood, you can't have sheet metal, or any of those types of materials are not permitted. Okay? And then there's regulations in there as relates to signage, either transportation, safety signs, identification signs, and all of those would be reviewed and approved once the site plan comes in. Okay? I'll be happy to take any questions from the commission, or if you want to open up for public hearing.
Okay. The way we handle public hearings is that we'll engage my fellow commissioners for comments and questions. In this case, we don't have a petitioner, but it'll be to the planning manager. And after those comments and questions are finalized, I'll then open it to public hearings. We'll then close public hearings, and then we'll come back here for a motion and a vote. So may I go to Commissioner Northcross, please?
Clarification. I guess this will require a site plan review for just, now, let me ask it this way. Will this require a site plan review for any construction permit?
Similar to what we do now for any type of, we do a site plan review, yes.
Oh.
So it depends on the type of construction. So if, for instance, they were just going in and restriping a parking lot that's existing, it's not expanding any parking or anything like that, then no, we would just do a kind of a administrative review and approval, and so forth. Something like that, I would say no. I would say that this is something where you're talking about major construction, stockpiling of earth and so forth around the site that would require to have the temporary construction fencing.
Okay. Okay, so the steps are, one, the initial site plan review to determine if the fencing is needed.
Correct.
And then if the fencing is needed, the fencing will be constructed according to this temporary construction fencing.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Waterman, please.
We have worked on this for quite a while through the user processes and the administration, and this is something that we worked on, we're expedited. Council President and some of the other council members had wanted this to be drafted, and I think it fills the need of the community for a number of sites that we've had a lot of complaints in terms of the construction debris and things that get out into the neighborhood. So that's the purpose of it. I think that what you don't have available to you that we also reviewed is the cost of the average site to do this. But we did study that as well during the process. I see that's not necessarily here, but I'm very anxious to hear what the public comment will be about this.
Okay, that's it. Commissioner Farrell, please.
Nothing to add at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Payne, please.
Well, the only thing that I had in regards to, but Mr. Gustafson cleared it because I had put here actually in question mark in regards to safety signage and making sure that signage is easy to read and directions are clear. So that, because I've seen some construction sites that did not have signage.
Correct.
And that's
Yeah,
very
you're
important for
typically,
safety.
right, and I think I'm definitely concerned, I think equally is what you're suggesting in regards to the actual directional signs and stop signs at gates as they're coming out, and safety regulations and so forth. A lot of communities I've been seeing, they have like hours of operations. It's very clear, when a construction can begin and when it can't, and so
That
forth.
would be great, because it would remind them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. This looks pretty straight ahead to me. I mean, for safety, debris, all kinds of items, temporary signage goes up in construction, comes down before a certificate of occupancy. I mean, I don't see, frankly, I'm surprised that we don't have this already. So anyhow, without further ado, I'm going to open a public hearing. So anyone that would like to come forward, please come forward. Yeah, slow down up there. I don't want to have a crash at the podium.
Big pressure.
Good evening. Good evening. We know who you are, or at least I know who you are, but for the records, please state your name and address for the record.
Carlton Jones, 2313 Oakland Drive, Pontiac, Michigan.
Good evening.
My question is, who is responsible for maintaining this up once it's put up? Is it the property owner, contractor, who's responsible for maintaining it?
Whoever pulls out the, I would say, permit to install, so it could be the property owner of a residential, or it could be the contractor itself that is doing the work, could be doing it. Either one. So either for residential or
Whoever
non-residential.
it's really a part of the permitting process?
Yeah, they would receive like a zoning permit from us, yes, that is correct.
Okay, and is the idea that you can't see, once you put it up, it has to be at a height where you can't see what's going on the other side for the construction?
I wouldn't say it's 100% opaque.
No offense.
Well, in residential, yes, a 4-foot snow fence is your typical green type of, with the holes in it. That obviously can be very visible into the site. However, a 6-foot chain link fence that is with a vinyl or fabric type of screening, I wouldn't say it's 100% opaque, but it does minimize the sight lines in there to, refrain from any debris that's blowing off the site, any type of sand, same thing with dirt, on some windy days. Same thing with, and also protects, equipment if it's fenced and gated in, so equipment can't find its way being removed illegally.
And I think it's a good idea to have proper boundaries for the construction area for safety and everything. But just be conscious that sometimes when they come and put up barriers before you even know what's going on, you don't even really have an idea of what's happening on the other side of construction, to at least be conscious for your community, your street, or whatever.
Okay.
So I think we just need to be conscious that we can be seeing what's happening when construction is happening in our areas.
Sure.
Thank you.
Very good point.
Thank you. Any further public comments? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
H. Bill Maxey, strong senior from Simcog.
Good evening.
I might have it sort of confused. I wanted to speak about the liquor license. Am I out of order, or?
No, well, that's the next item, or at public comments, but this is with regard to temporary construction fencing.
I'll take my seats before I bring my bullets.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right. Any further comment with regard to temporary construction fencing?
Good evening, Brett Reynolds, 50 Dakota, Pontiac, Michigan. I have a question regarding this snow fence. I was recently at when the demolition of Bethune School was happening recently, and they had the orange snow fence around an excavation hole. It didn't go all the way around it, and they had it blocking the front of the school as well. And the contractor and the construction people had daily dropped the fence entirely to the ground because it's so flimsy and can be gone through with a pair of scissors or a box cutter or anything like that. And it in no way impeded me from entering the space and seeing all the asbestos and going through and doing this. Also, because that snow fencing is not sturdy in any way, you can't affix permits or anything to it. And they had no permits for display anywhere on site the day that I was there. And they said, well, we can't put it on this. So that's an issue. I was wondering if you might consider cyclone fencing, the 4-foot wooden slat cyclone fencing that comes in rolls, because it does stop the spread of dust and debris. It is sturdy. It can't be quickly pushed to the ground and raised back up, and I just think it would be a more permanent barrier and maybe a better solution.
We'll answer that. Any questions? Technically, in public hearings, we aggregate the questions and we reply to those questions once we close public hearing. So, yes, Bill?
I'm here for a totally different reason, but I can't help but want to shed a little bit of light on trying to do that.
And name and address, Bill.
Bill Massey, and I live at 1304 Otter Avenue in Waterford. And I own the Wesson Lawn Tennis Club here in Pontiac. So I'm just recalling because I'm thinking about many of these things these days. We put 6-foot-high temporary fencing around the pool at Wesson Lawn Tennis Club. That's the only thing we did during construction. And that was there for 7 months. That cost me about $6,000 to do that, 60 feet by 80 feet. I just worry about the exorbitant cost of development. If one were, for instance, if I were to have had to put 8 acres of temporary fencing, if you do the math based on 60 and 80 feet at 6 feet high, no one will purchase that. They'll rent it. That's what I had to do. I'm just would put it out there. The cost of development, possibly in my case, would have been so prohibitive that I wouldn't have done the project. I'll just put that out there.
Sure.
That's just my perspective.
That's fine, thank you. Any further public comments? Okay, I'm going to close public comments, and perhaps you can answer that question with regard to...
The snow fencing, I think you are correct. I mean, it isn't the most sturdy, but in regard, as a single-family residential type project, it's because of the narrowness and the tight, close quarters of homes here in the city of Pontiac, it might be doable. I would say that you were referring to, I would recommend the 6-foot chain link fencing with screening. I wouldn't have done just snow fencing on something like that. So, I mean, we would recommend, if the ordinance passes the way it's written, we would require it. And as related to cost, it's a good point. I would, most projects, aside from, I've worn many hats and working on the construction side for private firms. I mean, we typically did rent them out because it was cheaper than obviously having to buy a product like that. So.
Okay, unless there are any further comments or questions, or I should say, are there any further comments or questions? Then I'm going to seek a motion, please.
Well, you. You went down there? Okay. Well, then I'll do it. I make a motion to approve amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Pontiac, Oakland County, Michigan by adding temporary construction fencing regulations and refer recommendation to City Council. The ordinance include revisions to amend Article 4, General Provisions, Chapter 1, Accessory Structures and Fences, Section 4.103, Fences or Walls, and add Item E, Temporary Construction Fencing.
Okay. And we have a second or support, please.
I support.
Okay, we have a motion, second, support. Any further comments or questions? Mr. Gustafson, roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Northcross,
Yes.
Commissioner Parlov,
Yes.
Commissioner Payne,
Yes to approve.
Mayor Waterman,
Yes?
and Chair Dane Thomas.
Yes to approve.
Unanimous, 5-0, approved.
Passes unanimously, okay? So I congratulate you, I guess, because there's no petitioner to congratulate. So, good luck, good job.
Yeah, wait till next.
And now you get another job to go to work and write up the ordinance. So. Okay, so to the next item we shall go, and here we go again, another liquor and gas station combination. And so Mr. Gustafson will present, please.
Okay. We've seen this one before, actually a little bit ago. This was, the Planning Commission saw the applicant and back on November 28th of 2018. And this is the BP gas station on the southeast corner of Walton and Telegraph. Right now, they is zoned C1 local business commercial. They're requesting a special exemption permit and meets the various sections that I'll get into. But if I go to the next slide here, you'll be able to see, this was a part of our original finding based upon information and mapping that we did have at the time, and we did notice one of the requirements, as we know, is cannot be less than 500 feet from a church, school, child care center, and so forth. And this one was 482. So what we did find, and I just want to give you a little bit of background here, back in November 28th, the Planning Commission did deny this for the permit for retail sales of packaged alcoholic beverages. That being both SDM, which is a special designated merchant selling beer and wine, and also an SDD, which is also selling packaged liquor. The applicant did retain a registered surveyor to measure distances between the Marymount Church property line and also the frontage door of the gas and convenience store. The applicant did appeal the Planning Commission's decision to the City Council due to the fact that they did have new information. The City Council did not hear it and referred it back to the Planning Commission, okay, which they're allowed to do. And think about it this way. According to the ordinance, since it's been over 180 days, they can come back and have it reheard, which they're here today. Also, if they had more information, or they had newer information, they would also have the ability to come back to the Planning Commission to review. So what we did find then within that review, based upon the fact that in our findings, if you look at section of 2.515, the ordinance has been met. In other words, yes, they have hired their own registered surveyor. It is more than 500 feet. It's like 515 feet from the church. There's no other community resources of playgrounds and churches and parks in this area, and there is no other facility that is selling any packaged alcoholic beverage within 1 mile of the BB gas station. So with that being said, the ordinances have been met. In other words, all the requirements have been met. So in our recommendation to you, based upon the information and also the survey information of being over than 515 feet from Marymount Church, we are suggesting, since they do meet all the requirements of the ordinance and also municipal code, it would be proper to meet that requirement and grant them a special exemption permit. Okay?
That
So,
conclude the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. And the petitioner's here?
Yes, they are.
Petitioner, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Robert Ficano. On behalf of the petitioner, along with my partner here, Bruce Rosenthal, and the petitioners here as well, and Mayor and the rest of the members of the commission, we are obviously in total agreement with the recommendation of the planning director. Some of the history is there was if I recall correctly, there was a Bonanza store. No, I apologize, wrong one. That at this point, the measurements were new, presented to the planning department, and they have approved. We met with them 2 or 3 times now to further seek if there's anything else that the petitioner has to do. But at this point, I'm told that it meets all the requirement and that it should be approved by the Planning Commission, and without even necessarily going in front of the City Council, automatically by ordinance it should take effect.
My name is Jamal Safedine. I'm the owner of the gas station at 355 Walton. So I just want to give a kind of little background about all this. So I did come in here in November, and as you said, you've always kept your word. You pretty much said you've never allowed anything in this, and you would never But I did my research. Actually, your guys' footage was incorrect, so obviously that could have been a mistake, maybe not, whatever. But then I found out also that there was locations with beer and wine in the city already in gas stations. So that was also odd. And your guys' license, which I want to make sure everyone understands it, is specific to packaged alcohol. It doesn't mean liquor. It's one license that it's an approval. So to even sell beer and wine, you have to be approved through this. So nobody should have been even selling beer and wine in any gas station or anything without this beer, wine, liquor, packaged alcohol license, technically. So even if we only wanted to sell beer and wine because liquor wasn't the right idea, we still have to be approved for the whole thing just to even be able to do that. So like you said, there's a lot of stuff in the city that obviously I feel needs to be changed and reworded and figured out. But as of this time, I meet all requirements. There's several requirements in the area that have to be met to even get approved. I've met everything. Other people have not met anything, kind of like we talked about earlier, and have been approved. So I just hope that we're all on the same page here. And, you know, there's plenty of customers who came in and can't wait for this to happen. So I know you said, you know, who comes in for a $100 bottle of malt liquor? Not a lot, but
Not malt liquor.
But there's a ton of people for
Single
Bud
malt
Light
Scotch.
and, you know, the
All
everyday.
liquor's in a can.
Yeah, whatever. I don't sell it yet, so I'm not quite sure. But,
And malt liquor
we have
is
enough
really
people
the
who are
issue that we're
definitely
talking about. Grab and
interested.
go and in the car.
yeah, but there's definitely a ton of people that are interested in this, so I wanted to make that aware.
Good evening, Commission. I thank you for giving me a couple of minutes on this.
Your name and address for the
Oh, I'm
record,
sorry,
please.
Bruce Rosenthal, 4301 Orchard Lake Road, West Bloomfield, Michigan. I apologize. Just, I wanted to be clear, I know in listening to your earlier agenda items about compliance with the ordinance, I just want to make sure there's no confusion. We're not here as a Jocelyn Liquor or whatever the name. We came here with a candidate who did comply with the ordinance. We aren't seeking to do anything to circumvent your ordinance, and I just hope that you all take that into consideration. This, on a pass-fail basis, we've worked through Mr. Gustafson's department as well as others, and all the criteria have been met when you cast your vote. Thank you for the time. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. Before I go to my fellow commissioners, I'm going to go on record once again. Since I've been sitting in this chair since 2012, this commission has never approved liquor in a gas station. Now, whatever may have been done before that, we don't stand up to that test. But I can tell you that this commission has never approved it. And for those reasons, again, no one's walking into a gas station to buy a top shelf bottle of liquor, you know, $50, $75, $100, $150. They're looking to pick up a 2.5 ounce airline bottle of liquor and get in their car and go. It's reckless and it's imprudent. Now, you come here with a special exception, and special exceptions means to me that there must be a compelling reason to approve a gas station with liquor. And I see absolutely no compelling reason from my position. However, if you pass the ordinances, then I guess we're technically obligated. But I can tell you right now, it's a law that needs to be changed. We got people that are dying on roads out there. I've got an acre of land that I recovered, rehabbed, and made a orchard and a vineyard out of from a derelict piece of land. Every weekend, I pick up, because there's a store just down the street, I pick up probably a 13-gallon bag of liquor bottles. And that's what happens in our city. Now, that doesn't happen with a $100 bottle of scotch or a $100 bottle of bourbon, but it does happen with a 2.5, 5-ounce, 6-ounce bottle of inexpensive liquor. So those are my comments, and I go to Commissioner Northcross, please.
I'm curious, is there a map of the measurements we made and a map of the survey of the surveyor's measurements?
It is in your packet, and it is on the screen also, Chris.
I was gonna look
The, there is a colored map. Here, let me go back.
Yeah. I was trying to understand the difference of the two.
So, let me show you. So this measurement here, what it does show is we took the measurement from the entrance using the, oh, thank you, Donovan. Kind of enhancing a little bit here. So basically, this is the system that we use, that we measured from, that we use for mailing in regards to distances and so forth, when we send out mailing for notices for public hearings such as this. And what we did was we measured from the actual storefront, the actual door, to the closest edge of their property line, okay? The ordinance does not particularly, the ordinance does not give specific dimension or requirements in regards to that measurement, okay? So then, so there's that one. I'll be able to change it here in a second. Maybe not. Thank you. All right. Okay. Black and white. Here we go. Here is, this is Telegraph, heading a little bit north-south. We got Walton Boulevard, heading east and west. The lot lines, here's a residential street that goes just west of that intersection. The BB gas station, the building here, and they took 3 measurements, actually. The closest being 515 feet from the door. That's the one I had measured, but there's actually greater, there's I think 135-foot measurement to the other door. And then it's measured along the line from there along here using surveying equipment right to the property line of Marymount Church. Okay?
So we go from front door
Yes.
to edge of property line.
Right, and we did do the same measurement, just, I mean, from a stopping point and a starting point. So we did measure from the doors on both cases. We just used different types of method of measuring, using, obviously, utilizing a professional surveyor gave us much more accuracy.
Okay. No further questions?
Thank you. Mayor Waterman, please.
I'm happy that if the measurements and the criteria have been met, then it specifies how planning commission is obligated to move forward, as we're obligating to our ordinances. That's why the discussion at the beginning of the meeting was so important, because it says it's not what I think or what you think or your personal, it says what the ordinances say. And if we want that to change, then we have to change the ordinances, if people believe in that. But if the planning commission is happy, it meets the criteria, and they have just certified that, I thank you for your persistence and doing that, so we know that we are operating within the bounds of the laws that we have set for this community.
Thank you. Commissioner Parla, please.
Vern, I have a question regarding this measurement. Are we using the Google mapping initially, ultimately, for notifying residents, and also for this particular situation?
Originally, the first map, the aerial map I showed you,
Right.
yes,
Okay.
yes, correct.
So we've got, obviously, a difference of a few feet, which makes a lot of difference.
Correct.
Go ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
And I was going to say that we do have, back in November, we have acquired different mapping software to at least be probably more accurate. Probably not as well as a professional surveyor would do.
Right.
But we can be closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think it would become cost prohibitive for the city to measure everything, so
Yeah.
that's not necessarily where I'm trying to go with my questions, but
I understand.
it sounds like there's a little bit of ambiguity, and again, in fairness to everyone, petitioner and to us as we're making these decisions, so we don't keep, retracing our steps, is there still something within our ordinance, it sounds like there's something that we may need to clarify a bit more?
Well, and again, that is correct. Going back to our first item under communication, and talking about that, describing that method of measurement will be critical. And, maybe as food for thought, we describe in regards to where the stopping points are. I'm just thinking out loud. I mean, here we are going to be receiving applications in regards to medical marijuana, and we were very precise in regards to how we're going to have them measured.
Right.
We could also maybe look at, requesting that level of detail from a surveyor being actually submitted as part of our plans, too, so.
Okay. Because
So-
when you say it's from the front door of the gas station, for example, is it, they're double doors, so is it the door that's closer to the next property? I mean, you're really splitting hairs at this point, so where do you
Yeah.
stop?
They did a good job of identifying, the center of the door.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I didn't pick the closest to the west, and I didn't pick the closest to the east.
Okay, thank you, that's all I had.
Commissioner Payne, Payne, please.
Okay, I am now confused, okay? If the city ordinance is saying 475 feet, and then we have a company to come in and say 15.16 feet, I'm confused because, then that has to be changed in the ordinance before just a question.
Yeah.
Does it have to be changed in the ordinance? Because otherwise, I feel that we are not following the ordinance because it says 475, and because another company come in, I know if I measure my driveway one way and my son measures it another way, we both come out with two different measurements. So how do we correct that and clarify that and make sure that it's in the ordinance so it's
Right.
not confusing to us in making these decisions?
And I totally agree with you. I'll make a similar response. You asked the question a little differently than Mona did, or, excuse me, Ms. Parlow. And it's the same, I'll give you kind of the same scenario, is that you are correct. What council did talk about, they didn't, their resolution that followed after the whole issue of 1124 Joslin. They recommended that not to remove those distances requirements, they just asked to make sure that we clarify how they are measured. Our ordinance does say now 500 feet. The way we measured in office here at that time was using software that we had and found it measured 485 feet. But then they had the right, obviously, to retain their own professional consultant, surveyor, to help them to go through and verify those property lines and data points along and measuring how they wanted to measure. What we'll do is make sure that we have a clear understanding of how it is measured and requesting that maybe that same information come to us before they submit their application. Let me just say that in medical marijuana ordinances and applications, every buffer is going to have to be surveyed. We aren't going to take the responsibility. They have to prove to us, and we will double check it because we will touch base with our DPW and our engineering consultant to review to ensure that those distances have been met. Make sure those surveys are correct. But we have enough teeth in the medical marijuana ordinance that we crafted that does spell out how it's measured and where it's measured from and so forth. Okay? So we're going to be doing the same thing with this.
Okay.
So,
It still, I think, concerns me that we as a city are measuring, and then we permit an outside company to come in, I should say an applicant's choice of a contractor or whomever to come in and do a measurement, and we accept that measurement. I have a concern with that.
But they are, I mean, they are certified.
They are licensed, so they're not going to jeopardize their,
Side either.
huh?
Doesn't mean they're on your side. No, I just,
Yes, but
you didn't hear me.
Yeah, but they are licensed surveyors, registered with the state of Michigan. I would think that they wouldn't jeopardize their professional license for the over a,
People jeopardize their everyday, everything's jeopardized. Yeah.
I'm going to open to a public hearing. Public hearing is open. Anyone that'd like to comment, please come forward. And once again, we'll gather any questions, we'll aggregate those questions, we'll answer the questions on the backside, and then we'll come back here for final vote.
Hello, I'm Billy Swayzer, 1619 Marshbank in Pontiac.
And could you pull the microphone just a little bit closer, please? Thank you.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's the only way it works. We got the Cadillac of Microsoft systems here. I'm Billy Swayzer, 1619 Marshbank Drive in Pontiac, and I would hope that you didn't give this man a license. I live right around the corner, not too far from it, in Parkside Preserve of the North, and guess what? I had to go through that corner to get anywhere. And yes, they will be just getting the disposable liquor, drink and go, and and so if you give it to them, I'm gonna be calling Oakland County anytime I see anybody drinking and driving so that they can get arrested. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening once again. H. Bill Maxey, strong senior of SimCog. I advocate health. Do you realize the biggest challenge in the city now is health of our seniors? Our people in general, they have great health problems. And liquor is contributing to a violent nature. Have you asked the citizens that they want overall a liquor store on the corner? I hear you saying the ordinance this, we measured here, we measured. What about the citizens? The young man said, I've talked to. Who did you talk to? In this particular area, I know because I'm a 24/7 trailblazer in the city. And the people you're talking to are repetitively and repeatedly drinking. These are the people that I have to make sure they have water, make sure they're in the process to get a home, make sure they're locked up. We have a pro bono attorney. Our city needs to get rid of many of these stores. It's almost as many liquor stores as there are churches on the corner. Do you realize right now, WHRC, there's a health seminar going on by one of our citizens here in the city of Pontiac. We don't need an increase. Now, big business, how many times does the dollar turn around in this particular owner? It's supposed to be 13 times. 13 times this community. And people of Pontiac, Mr. and Mrs. Pontiac, your dollar is only worth 57 cents. Are you taking consideration? You've heard what the commissioners have said, but I don't hear any other citizens coming here saying, no, we're the backbone of the city. Health, H-E-A-L-T-H, is the most important things in our city and across the nation now. Our people are suffering from all kind of dementia and end up having, being crippled or doing things they would have done had it not been for the influence. So you run by here 80 miles an hour and buy a pack of liquor, and you keep on going. I'm talking about the walking people who now walk 2 miles to the store to get a bottle of wine. Now you're going to put a liquor store, they have to walk, what, maybe a half of that now? What do the people want in this city? And we don't need any more liquor stores, regardless of where they are. As I said, there's almost as many liquor stores as churches. Your money don't turn around here. So what? My thing is, go to Birmingham. Go to Bloomfield. Put up those stores. We're in the mode to change our city. Healthy minds, healthy body. The only true wealth in this city is the wealth of the mind. And alcohol contaminates, intimidates, and give bad influences to people, for those who all time uninfluenced don't think for themselves. That's why myself and other trailblazers are here, making sure that you understand what's happening to the city of Pontiac. A dumping ground? Let your dollar turn around 13 times in this city. Get on your car, put your car and drive, and go put it up in Birmingham. Put it up in Bloomfield. And I guarantee you, when I'm over St. Joe, many of the entities and the people that comes there got alcohol problems across the city. I'm on the committee for violence. I was asked to be one of the coordinators because we do things in this city, okay? And the we is, if I have to get the young people, hey, you heard me marching in front of your store, you go to Webster Dictionary and get an explanation of why we will be marching in front of your store. People need to know, and I bet you when I hit the streets, and I bet you when I hit the media, that another liquor store and the detriments, it's not a threat, it's what we do for reality.
I'd like for you to kind
I
of...
work hard in this city for a healthy city.
If you will, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Emotive I sound, hey, that's me.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Coleman Yoakum, 29 Waldo. Let me pull up my notes here.
Good evening, Coleman.
Good evening. Pull up my notes. We need more access to alcohol. It is really hard for most of us who have to go really far, sometimes a mile or more, to get to alcohol. This is better for those of us in our community. We need a health... Oh, I meant vegetables. Sorry. My bad. So, anyway, I will say this is, I think, a problem that is plaguing our city a lot, is that we have ordinances that are loosely written, weirdly written, vague, malleable in a lot of ways. I think it would be really easy to write an ordinance that says we don't provide liquor at gas stations. I mean, and I don't think that that's impeding anybody's kind of ability to sell or ability to run a business, because we also can't sell liquor at daycares. So if we can make concessions for them, I think we can say that we're not impeding business by saying that. Clearly, we're not doing a great job at enforcing what we have. If the other place that we're talking about has 3 of these places within its prescribed area that you're not allowed to have packaged liquor, I think that these sorts of things are going to keep coming up as long as we're not writing laws and writing ordinances that are tight, that make sense, that go through some sort of vetting process, that have the scrutiny of the people and the people who are in the industry especially, who can look at these things and tell you, here are the holes. And as long as we, Dane, I'm on your side. I'm going one more place. There are 3 places within walking distance of my house, and people have gotten hit in front of one of them multiple times this year because there's not a crosswalk anywhere nearby. They're drunk, they're walking to get more, they get hit by a car at night. I appreciate your position, and I think that it is a wise position, and I wish that you had more numbers. I would love to see numbers. How many people are we pulling over in this city who can say, I bought this alcohol at a gas station? That would be great to know. And in terms of propping up common sense ordinances that we can start enforcing and start putting in front of committees like this one to get passed. I think the gentleman is here at the right time because we don't have a really tight reason to not approve him. And as you guys stated at the beginning of this meeting, we have to be consistent. And so I think consistency says he gets what he needs or what he's after. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Coleman. Good evening. I've met you once, but please state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Chuck Johnson. I'm at 455 South Boulevard East
I'm a stickler for coming to this mic only because I'm concerned about what goes on in this city. Now, I'm going to stand with Commissioner Payne because her thought was that we have per Chair Gus, I can't get your name out. But anyways, Vern, yeah, Vern. We have a city engineer, according to you, that has certification, and according to what has been said here, this other individual has certification for what he's measured as it relates to this issue. I think I want to stay with our commissioner because her thought and feeling goes along with what she's going to say yes or no to. And further, I'm going to go along with Brother Maxey because we do have too many liquor stores in the city of Pontiac. We don't need any more. They're on every corner. And I'm not one to knock a person that wants to make his business flourish. I was a businessman. I'm retired. To make his business flourish, generate the revenue stream that he's desirous of. But liquor, we have enough. And let's either vote it down or put it on the table and think about it based on Commissioner Payne's thought. I got here late, but we don't need any more liquor stores. And I'm a citizen in this community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further comments? Public hearing. Okay, I'm going to close public hearing. Public hearing is closed. Did we have questions? That I don't think we had any questions, right? Okay. I'm going to go back to my fellow commissioners for any last comments or questions before we go to a motion. So, Commissioner Northcross.
Well, every measurement has some error in it. And the question is how much error? A registered surveyor should be able to measure within, I don't know, how many eighths, sixteenths, I'm not sure. But we have a difference here of about 40 feet. And it appears that using our GPS method, I'm not sure that we can actually determine what that error is with the GPS method, whereas a registered surveyor can. So for that reason, I am inclined to take the registered surveyor's information and use that. Now, there's a whole nother question that has been brought up here about better regulation of liquor and other beverages, and I would say, yeah, that I would agree there's something that needs to happen, but given what we have on the table right now, with the information that we have right now, I would say that yes, the gentleman is meeting all of the ordinance requirements. Let me throw this out again. I think I started off talking about the master plan review or reset. Somehow, we need to do some type of annual review of our ordinances, our land use items, and certainly the 5-year review of the master plan is due now, and this might be a good time to start that reset. You take your best shot at an ordinance, you put it out there. A lot of times, if you've done due diligence, most of it works, but as you go along, one will find that there's additional tweaks and things that need to be made, especially as you have more eyeballs on that ordinance and more input on that ordinance. And I think we have a series of land use ordinances here in the city that we need to tweak, we need to change, we need to make some improvements. Our last master plan, I think, had about 85 different action items listed, many of which included revising our ordinance. I don't think that we've done too much to review our, to revise our land use ordinances to this date for a whole number of reasons, but this is a good time to start. But anyway, going back there, I'm glad to hear that we're going to be using a method of measuring that will be more accurate, and hopefully we'll understand what our accuracy is with that that method of measurement. And in this case, the surveyor, I would take a registered surveyor's information over our GPS information at this time.
Thank you. Mayor Waterman, please.
Yes, I too am glad that the medical marijuana zoning ordinance that was written more recently and more securely does have a more secure and measure of measuring, so to avoid these kind of close situations here. But I think I've said what I wanted to say and what my views were in terms of this, that we're obliged as planning commissioners to look at the information that's presented before us and to decide on the basis of what is existing on the ordinances right now. I hear your pain, all those who think we're saturated with the liquor licenses, I hear that. But the point of carrying that forward is to carry it forward before City Council, before the legislators who can change that if that's where you wish. So I would just steer you in that direction. But I think we have the case set before us, and I'm listening to the recommendations of our Planning Commission and who have accepted the view of the surveyor license. So that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Parlow, please.
Thank you, gentlemen, for bringing this information back to us. It's important for us to have so we can make well-informed and educated decisions. And thank you for those who came and spoke tonight. That's very important to hear what you have to say. We definitely do not need more alcohol. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't sell at your gas station what you choose to sell. For what I do, I'm in real estate, and we do not question when a survey comes back. We don't find reason to bring another surveyor in. If someone has brought us a report, we take that report at value. We don't question what's given to us. For the city to go and hire an appraiser every time, or an assessor, a surveyor every time to make sure every inch on a document is accurate is cost prohibitive. There's no way that we could do that. We have far more important things to spend money on than to try and debate 15 feet. So I am in support of what these people are trying to do. Again, I appreciate the information that was brought. I appreciate what Mayor Waterman just said. But as far as what these zoning items are given to us to abide by, we have a bigger issue to address. If the residents feel that what we have to go by of having something within 500 feet is not acceptable, to have some additional alcohol served within that area, and it needs to be reduced to 400 feet or 300 feet or whatever it is, the residents need to come forward with this. We can only do what you instruct us to do. We don't have magic powers here. So we need more engagement, and you better talk to your council people, because they have put us in a bind. And this is completely unfair to us tonight. We're trying to do our best to help you who are sitting here petitioning in front of us for what you're trying to do. And we're trying to help the residents here who are here with us. We're shoulder to shoulder on this, and we have a city council that's working against us. And we don't have any power to do anything about that. But when it comes time to vote for people, when their positions are up for renewal, you better keep this in mind, because this is important for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Payne, please.
No comments.
Okay, thank you. My closing comments are, I respect your business. I pass by your business frequently. So the idea that you're in business and you're conducting business, and I respect that, but it doesn't mean that I like the idea of the law. On the other hand, when we've rejected this in the past, or when I voted to reject it in the past, it's been with cause. This troubles me a bit, and because we're really splitting hairs. We have 15 feet. 500 is a cutoff, and so, and I respect the survey. I've had things surveyed before. They're licensed, they're certified. It is the gospel. It has to go to a court of law to overturn it, so we're not going to overturn it for 15 feet. But I don't like the law for the reasons or the ordinance for the reasons I stated. I hope that when you go forward that you're prudent with operating, because I won't vote against this because it fits within the ordinance, but it doesn't mean that I have to like it. So those are my closing comments. Unless there are any further comments or questions, then I'm going to seek a motion, please.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion To approve SEP 18-09, special exception permit for a special designated distributor, also known as SDD, packaged liquor sales license, and a special designated merchant, also known as SDM, packaged beer and wine sales license at 355 Walton Boulevard, parcel number 64-14-07-483-011.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and a support. Any further comments or question before we go to roll call? Mr. Gustafson, roll call, please.
Commissioner Parlov,
Yes.
Commissioner Northcross,
Yes.
Commissioner Payne,
No. Based on city ordinance.
Mayor Waterman,
Yes.
Chair Dane Thomas.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Congratulations. I hope you'll be prudent with your license. Thank you. Okay, to the next item we shall go. This is an address at 1025 Cesar Chavez, and Mr. Gustafson will present.
Sure. Here we have a relatively small parcel, roughly about half an acre on Cesar Chavez near the west end of the city. They're looking for a rezoning from currently right now at C3 corridor commercial, and they're looking to rezone it to light manufacturing. A little bit of a evening sun glare, but you can see it kind of.
Sort of say, like, imagine if you could see that.
Yeah, you can see it.
There we go.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know which direction, I don't know if it's that one over there.
Or maybe it's this one.
Anyways, you see the site outlined in red. There's a smaller access drive to the rear of the site. Currently, right now, it's an auto service business. Like I said, it is located on a half an acre of site. Just to humor me, we'll just pretend that Cesar Chavez is directly north. So north of the site is a legal non-conforming residential home. To the east, we have our auto sales and also commercial. To the south of the site, we have partially vacant commercial business, and also to the west, we also have one in particular legal non-conforming residential dwelling unit along with vacant property. Future land use for the site shows the site along with areas all around it is planned for industrial and manufacturing. Okay, from a zoning perspective, there is a little bit of a mixture between C3 corridor commercial and also light manufacturing M1 on the site itself. So you have it. It's fine. So the site that we're looking at is in blue. So you have it predominantly to the north and also into the west. We continue to have the M1 light manufacturing. To the east, we have commercial, also heavy industrial, which is M2, and then some commercial of the C3 on both sides of that site. Staff findings. What we did, as mentioned, the applicant is requesting to rezone from C3 to M1. The master plan have identified the site along with surrounding areas as manufacturing industrial, allowing for manufacturing, warehousing, logistics, and other intense uses, which should be concentrated and planned to buffer within residential areas, which it is. The subject site does meet and is compatible with M1 development standards. If the zoning map amendment is approved, the applicant will be required to comply with site plan review of the Pontiac zoning ordinance. We also, as we've been doing with a number of rezonings, we have in our packet, we did a technical review as it relates to medical marijuana businesses, as we do know that this site is located within the Cesar Chavez overlay district. So what it would allow it to do would be is, if it remains C1, or excuse me, C3, they're allowed to have the a provisioning center, safety compliance and secure transporters. On an M1 district, you could go up to all the various 5 types of facilities, but on a half acre, it's going to be pretty tight. So it probably wouldn't be something like that as a grower and a processor. But for what they're looking to do in regards to, from a manufacturing standpoint and their business, it's better suited to fit with that future use on that particular site. Okay? And I'll help you answer any questions the commission may have.
Okay, is the petitioner here?
Yes, he is.
Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
The mic, please. Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
James Leach, and I live on 3444 Overton in Waterford.
Good evening. You heard Mr. Gustafson's presentation of your proposal or request. Anything you'd like to add or change or modify or enhance?
Well, when he spoke about the house on the rear street, the non-conforming house, that's gone now.
Oh, it is now? Okay.
And there's a house on one side of me that's getting ready to be torn down, which would be south of me, if you're calling that north, Cesar Chavez North. The houses behind are already zoned industrial, and north of me, there's 2 lots that's zoned industrial there also. So, and with only having a 20-foot wide driveway on Cesar Chavez, I don't have very much for retail sales if there's just an access driveway and the building's 250 feet back off the road. So with somebody, if I rent the building out, sell it or whatever, if somebody can use it to do smaller manufacturing, it gives me more real estate. People might be interested in it. It might be something that would give the city more workers, that you would be collecting taxes, and if they put manufacturing in there, the equipment might be personal property taxable, so it could help everybody, possibly. Other than that,
Okay.
I don't know what to tell you.
All right, that's good enough. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go to my fellow commissioners, to Commissioner Northcross, please.
And again, the current use, are there any current uses for that building?
That are existing auto service business right now.
Okay, okay. And the idea is to go to M1, which would be light manufacturing, that
Correct.
sort of thing. Okay. And that's in back of the building that has, what is it, custom color or something color? Yeah, you go through the driveway.
Right.
Just to the side of that.
Next to that building.
Okay.
There's a long court in my driveway, and then color black.
Okay. Good. Yes. No further questions. No further questions.
Thank you. Mayor Waterman, please.
Yes, and I'm just reviewing your application and the materials from the Planning Commission, from the Planning Department, rather. I see there's a question you answered here, and I just wanted to, if you would amplify that a little bit for us. It says, please state the reason for the zoning map amendment. and more. And then you state your answer is to be better aligned with the future of the city of Pontiac. Can you amplify that? How is this better aligning it with the future of the city of Pontiac? I'm just curious. She made it good to go to microphone, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if you will, please, if you can, stand at the podium until our fellow commissioners can ask their questions.
Oh, okay. I just feel that it could bring more workers into the city of Pontiac. It could bring more revenue to Pontiac. There's just several pluses for me and Pontiac.
Okay, all right, that's an answer. I'll pass on to the next commissioner.
Okay. Commissioner Parlow, please.
Good evening, James. Thanks for coming in tonight. Right now, the use for the building, you're doing what with that again?
Currently, my business is closed and I just storing some things in there.
Okay, so it's not active at this point, it's just?
No.
Okay. It is an odd parcel based on what we have here in our packet that we can see that doesn't have sun shining on it. So your parcel actually becomes more of a destination. It's not going to be a storefront that people are going to drive by and say, oh, I'm going to stop in here. They have to know.
You can't see the front of the building from the street.
Right, exactly. So it definitely limits what can be done on the site. So I'm sensitive to that. And any particular reason why you want it zoned as light manufacturing?
Well, it would give me more potential buyers for the property.
Okay.
C3 is more road frontage, road where people would see, but
Right.
Up there, it's not the easiest place to find unless, you're looking for it. So
Exactly.
if somebody wanted to do a small manufacturing thing or something like that up there, years ago, they built trusses, and that property originally was probably one of the first recycling centers in the state of Michigan.
Oh, was it?
The property owner charged to tear buildings down, took them down there, took them up there, sold every part he could off of the buildings, every cement block. He had his sons pounding nails on an anvil straight and filling
Interesting.
pickle kegs with them and selling them. Their fathers sold anything and everything he could up there.
Interesting. So, but that was at that time, do we know, was that also zoned as the commercial, or was that light industrial then? We have no idea. It was a long time ago.
I think it was before there was zoning. It was back, that building was built in 1948.
Okay. Okay. All right, that's helpful. Thank you for your information.
Thank you. Commissioner Payne, please.
Thank you for coming before us. We appreciate that. That was actually one of my questions, future plans for the property there. And are they to sell?
Well, age and health's getting against me, so I'm either going to end up selling it or renting it or leasing it or one of the three.
Okay, and I guess my next question would be to you, Mr. Gussis. In regards to the rezoning criteria, if you could look at number 3 and tell me how does this relate to approving am I reading it incorrectly, or that?
What it's saying is that since it has been a developed site for a number of years, that any hydrological environmental feature that we would like to save is totally gone. So it can be built. So we're not over, the requirement starts talking about making sure that be cognizant of those environmental features. But since they're already gone, we can't really judge them for that value.
So when we're talking about receiving a reasonable return on the investment of the property, so how does that, I mean, I'm kind of,
Oh, I'm sorry, I was reading number 2. I'm
Your-
totally sorry. I was looking at number 2. That probably didn't make any sense with my answer, did it? So, I think what we're saying is that, yes, I mean, if you look at the site configuration, you look at the flag lot, which is what I call that kind of a lot, with the long, narrow entrance drive, I mean, the return on investment to take that based upon the existing zoning and the fact that it is a commercial zoning, and to the configuration of the flag lot, pushing the building all the way in the back, the return on them, their investment of building a commercial building of some sort would be very limited. So to go into a more M1 zoning would be more appropriate than keeping it C3.
okay.
I apologize for the mix-up of questions.
Just,
Okay, thank you. This to me looks pretty straight ahead. It's a very unusual piece of property. Most of that through there is light manufacturing anyhow. So to me, it seems like a very practical, proper thing to do. So this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open public hearing. Anyone that'd like to come forward, state their case, please do.
As always, yours truly, Chuck Johnson, 455 South Boulevard East.
Thank you.
You know, I just watched James here and listened to his comments, and he's the kind of a guy that I am in my retired years. And I do remember whenever the property was a place where a guy would bring old lumber from demos and so on. As a matter of fact, I even shared my demo stuff with Mike Spack, who was the fellow back then who did that. And I think that we should look at this not only from your point of view, Chair, but I think James is like me. He's taken and trying to turn his existing assets into some maybe monetary gain and go on with life and have a piece of property that certainly could meet what a potential developer may want to do there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you. Any further comments or public questions, public comments or questions? I'm going to close the public hearing. Thank you. Any further comments or questions from my fellow commissioners?
Mr. Leach, I'd just like to say thank you for bringing this to us. I know it takes a little bit, but I think overall it's a step forward to enhancing the value of that whole corridor in terms of its property value, both yours and the other folks around it. So thank you for taking those additional steps and bringing that forward.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? May I have a motion, please?
I'll do this one. Okay. Per the zoning map amendment, I move that per the zoning map amendment in section 6.8002 and findings, I make a motion to recommend approval of ZMA 19-07. The recommendation would be presented to City Council for approval to rezone parcel number 64-14-29-129-034 from C3 corridor commercial to M1 light manufacturing.
Thank you very much. May we have a second in support?
I support.
Okay, any further comments or question before we go to roll call? Mr. Gustafson, roll call, please.
Yes, Mayor Waterman,
Yes.
Commissioner Parlov,
Yes.
Commissioner Payne,
yes to approve.
Commissioner Northcross,
Yes.
and Chair Dane Thomas.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
congratulations. Let us know how we can help. Good luck to you. Thank you very much. Okay, to the next item, last item on our public hearing. This is VSA 18-03. This is basically street vacations. So I will turn it to Mr. Gustafson for presentation, please.
Thank you. We are looking, there are several sections or portions of roads within what we call the Crystal Lake Peninsula, which is highlighted in that area. Obviously, the darker represents Crystal Lake. And so we're looking at vacating some select streets, Irene, Warner, Hess, Clovis, McGaff, Carl Walters, Howard McNeil, and also Branch. And it is, we have some illustrated graphics that probably better to suit, so you can kind of see closely, they're highlighted the roadways that are considered for vacation, or to be vacated, sounds more appropriate. So here's all the streets in the peninsula, and further north, on the north side of Gillespie, we have a number of streets here also that is owned by Hance and others that have trying to consolidate that for future development. This is being the tennis domes, and further north, you see just a little bit of the Weston Lawn Tennis Club right to the north of that. The maps that were included, I'll get into those professional surveys that were completed. The site, future land use for the site has a little bit of a mixture of mixed use of entrepreneurial, being residential, commercial, and green. Same thing with the north. So the south and west and east, we have what is planned is for parks, public parks, and also open water. Zoning perspective, we do have several categories of residential, from single-family residential up to R3, and also R4, multiple-family residential. To the north, to the east, we have single-family. To the west, we have multiple, and then obviously to the south is Crystal Lake, the lake body itself, the open water itself. And let me, before I get into findings, I think it's important, I don't see them. Okay. There are, in the packet that was posted on our website, and also within the Planning Commission's packet, there are surveys that was done that has been completed. They have been reviewed by our city engineer. They have been, as a matter of fact, today I received confirmation from Nowak and Frost, our city engineer. Everything is in alignment in regards to everything is, I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and everything is tight, meaning that the properties are tight and where the actual roadways are. And they're looking at just vacating the roadways within the areas that I had showed you that was colored enhanced. With that being said, also is that one of the stipulations, we did hear back from the Water Resource Commission. They have no problem us going with this recommendation. Is just that obviously any easements, utility easements, and there's a number of them here with the dams and all the lake levels, that would have to make sure that those easements for utilities are put in place. Okay? So getting back to the findings for the project itself, we did notice, and we do have the applicant here, actually a couple of applicants are here to just present. The streets are not necessary to access to adjacent properties due to the configuration of the location they are in the city, and not needed to access any services. Vacating of the streets would not make access to nearby properties more difficult, time-consuming, or inconvenient, and it would be, and it would not do any substantial detriment to the value or to the utility of the adjacent properties that are located near the vacating these streets. Other streets include Gillespie and Lake Street do provide access to these parcels in rights-of-way, and the requested vacation is not necessary to access police and fire and other public safety services. The property owners did sign the street vacation application, And at this time, yes, the city DPW did review the legal description along with our engineering consultant, and they will make sure that also the utility easements are also properly reviewed and approved after this review and approval is completed by the Planning Commission. I'll be happy answering any questions that the commission may have.
Okay, thank you. I think the petitioner's here. Mr. Massey, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Bill Massey, and I live at 1304 Otter Avenue in Waterford. I am the owner of the Westland Lawn Tennis Club. I was formerly the architect in residence at Cranbrook Academy of Art, and now I am the director of design technology at the University of Kentucky. As well as being 2 years ago, I opened a partnership with John Hance on some of this property, and I can explain that a little bit later if need be. And I'll let Matt, my co-colleague in this, introduce himself. Thank you, by the way.
Thank you.
Nice to see all of you.
Good evening, everybody. Mayor Waterman, Commissioners, Chairman. My name is Matt Farrell, 8722 South Shore Drive in Clarkston, Michigan. I represent as an advisor to John Hance and have been involved in this project for the last couple of years of his engagement and investment in trying to help improve the property. These roads have been vacated for a number of years functionally. I believe the housing project there was torn down sometime in 1999 to 2000. The roads do exist. They're grown over. The power poles have been knocked down. We spent a considerable amount of time working with the city, its administration, and the DTE and consumers last year with the help of the city to decommission electric and make sure that it was safe to be able to access the site. Shortly thereafter, working with the city, Mr. Hance and our team worked collectively and did a cleanup weekend. We hauled close to 14 40-yard dumpsters of garbage off of that property to help clean up the area. For those who don't know what a 40-yard dumpster is, it's a large gravel train sized trailer. And myself personally, Mr. Hance's staff, a lot of my staff, multiple vehicles and trucks went out, and some of the council members and others joined us in that day. It was a rainy, wet weekend, but we got it all done. Unfortunately, that was done back in the October-ish timeline, and we're already seeing trash starting to compile up again. So the goal of this is to get to a white box and have somebody responsible for maintaining, cleaning, and keeping that property safe and clean of debris. And to the extent we can go forward with a vacation, then Mr. Hance can spend necessary dollars and hire the right professionals to come up with long-term master plans that make sense for this property for the next 30 years plus. And that is the intent.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This is the last item on our public hearing, but I'd like to make an opening comment here, which is this is a parcel that has a lot of motion, and there are the opinions on this are polar opposites. But I'd like to remind everyone that, as you said, I think that this has been vacant and derelict since vacant since 1999. The city doesn't make a lot of tax revenue on vacant parcels. So the idea of having vacant land sitting there doesn't do anyone any good. Either pave the roads, pay for services, even take care of the local area. So, I'm going to turn it to my fellow commissioners, and once again, yes.
Yeah, just go ahead. If I may, through the chair, I do want to provide a little bit clarity. If you look at this graphic here, it definitely highlights the roads that are being vacated, and that is strictly all we are approving is the roadways. If you look over here, you can see a faint red line that runs along. That is the edge of the property, and also with areas within this yellow line. So within the lake itself is actually owned by the city. That is, in no way we're talking about doing any vacation of that current property that is owned by the city right now, including this open space park area, which has been referred to as Crystal Lake. Okay? I just wanted to go that on record for everybody here, and then also for the commission to understand also. Okay?
Okay,
That was it.
thank you. Commissioner Northcross, please.
Well, Mr. Gustafson is hitting on one of the points that I wanted to have additional clarity on. I was looking at the map. Can that be enlarged? Maybe just, let's look at the very southern tip of the peninsula to see the difference between the red line and the, okay. So the shoreline will continue to be owned by the city? And out into the lake, the
Right.
city will retain
Right.
property rights?
Right.
Okay. And, okay. Okay. And the applicants currently own this land?
Yes, they do.
So they've already taken the necessary steps to start to purchase this land and?
It's been purchased for a couple of years.
Okay. And the issues with the Water Resource Commission, those have been all handled. I know they did give us something on August the 2nd.
Correct.
About easement.
Correct. Which is typical standard language, and they actually provided me with once we are done here, we would take this street vacation request to City Council, and they've given me a resolution with appropriate language to be inserted.
Yeah, that property has increased. I think the project was Clinton River Drain Number 3, which completed a series of drains from the mill dam through there, through town. I'm not sure which one was 1, 2, or 3, but there were a series of drains. And the water flow and other things have really improved with that, with the completion of that drainage program. Yes, that's has greatly improved the livability of that whole property. I'm glad to see that the city's retaining that water frontage. I think that has some real possibilities for that whole lake. In fact, one time, one of the thoughts on Clinton River Drain Number 3 was that that area would become swimmable at certain periods of time. You know, once things had settled down with the lower flow rates. And in fact, they're even thinking that there would be well points installed that would pump water into Crystal Lake and make it swimmable. Now, the water levels, I guess, have continued to drop at a rate where those well points were never, that I know of, never installed. But they're still it's becoming a very nice piece of property there, all along Bagley Street, which used to flood. My original birth home was on Esther Street, and that's been reworked now, but I do remember the floods on Esther Street that we would have in the springs and the falls that are now no longer occurring because of that drainage project. So, yes, there's some things happening, and yeah, it's good to see us starting to move forward and get some things done.
Mr. Chairman, if I might add one thing? Thank you. To that point, it's interesting, when I purchased the property that is shown in the other aerial photograph, I did some of my own research and due diligence, and it's interesting that in 1978, as a note of interest, that's when all of those waterways were starting to be controlled. This area, all the way up to the tennis club in 1978, was completely underwater at one time, and that's when an informal vacating of those roads happened. In fact, there were only 3 houses out there, and those were demolished, and the roads that are highlighted at this moment are what I would refer to in my own language as a paper road. They do not exist. There is a little bit of infrastructure there, but there's no asphalt, there are no curb cuts, there is nothing. There's some derelict poles, there's some derelict road bumpers, but in 1978 is when, and it's sometime after 1978 is when someone actually literally removed the roads themselves. So I just wanted to add that, and that's where a lot of that, now, of course, that doesn't happen, that the waterways and the control of the flow of the water is completely managed.
And in the master plan, I think some of the areas along Bagley and over into that area, we were looking at that being for parks and other types of activities, recreational activities.
Yeah, and another clarification as well is that I believe, I don't know if this is pertinent, but it says just in this announcement that the current zoning is R1 and R3. If I'm correct, I came to planning when I purchased the Hayes Jones Community Center to develop that. My intention was to develop a recreational site to produce an ATP level tournament, which would bring in approximately $4 million annually. And I had mentioned that, I had graphics to show that and everything else. And so I believe it cost me $16,000 to go through the Zoning Board of Appeals to make that recreational property. So in fact, I don't know if everyone understands, but the property if you can go back to the other graphic, that property where those roads in between all of those properties, to my mind, are in fact zoned recreational, just to your point.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, Mr. Gustafson, you've answered many of my questions. I'll sit back and listen.
Okay, thank you very much. Mayor Waterman, please.
We've had a little history here. The area in question where the streets are to be vacated is actually the parcel that was, as you said, the home of the former subsidized housing that were torn down by HUD. And they were controlled by the Pontiac Housing Authority, which, once they got the waiver from HUD, was allowed to sell the peninsula property. So that has been sold to Mr. Hance. And it is important for the city because it is an extreme asset of the remainder of the easement that the city owns. This is the largest undeveloped lakefront parcel in all of Oakland County. So it is a stream access for the people to see that this is developed in a way that creates that natural beauty and maybe it restores lake access again, particularly because the peninsula property that John Hance bought to the west of that is the park, what used to be the Crystal Lake Park that we hope at some point to restore and create that waterfront access. So it's all part of a plan, and we hope that that will be developed in some way that's conducive for that in time. So, we have worked with Mr. Hance, and as he's come to town, didn't have quite an idea of what he wanted to do with it at first, and had offered several options to purchase all the easement. Of course, that wasn't well received because that people wanted to have some public access to the lake. And then another process, and he's been kind of working through what he wants to do with it. So we're waiting to see and hoping this area might be developed in a way that's conducive and satisfies the needs for this particular beautiful lakefront property. And so things started to move a little bit, it's something you have something to do with, Mr. Massey.
Yes.
Having been now twice yesterday with the council meeting, and for those who don't know, as the owner of the Western Lawn Tennis Club, what used to be Hayes Jones Community Center, you have offered that property back to the city. So the council now is considering whether or not they want to undertake the offer to purchase that and again restore it as a Hayes Jones, like we had it in the old, when it was Hayes Jones Community Center. So you've done a beautiful job with that. It gives us an idea of the kinds of things that can be developed in that area. And now that that is, we've got some movement in terms of how that area is developed, vacating the streets so Mr. Hance can see where he wants to develop that property and be part of the overall development of that area, I think is quite a boon for the city.
Well, I appreciate that, and I will take some of the responsibility. I'm also working on a project in northern Michigan for Mr. Hance in terms of a building project, which is going along very well. And I'm actually one of the people that has counseled Mr. Hance. Not only we developed a partnership, but as a designer, I'm in part the reason that I've been saying that we need to vacate those streets. We need to have a kind of what I would refer to as a tabula rasa to move a development agenda forward and figure out what we're going to do, because the configuration, simply the configuration of the streets, in my mind, will be prohibitive to think and master plan and conceptualize the possibilities of making that quite a beautiful piece of property. And that is the intention. The exact intention of what to do, I'm here to represent the fact that we don't know. But the intention is we need to know whether or not we can vacate the streets. We believe that we should be able to vacate the streets. We don't see any reason why not to vacate the streets to allow us to move forward in developing that site.
Yeah. Well, we thank you for your involvement, as you have reacquainted those who didn't know what your involvement has been in doing that. And we hope that if maybe the rest of the commissioners agree that by vacating these streets, that will unlock that creative vision and be able to develop that into the asset and the beautiful area that we hope we can see in Pontiac.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Parlow, please.
Excuse me. Gentlemen, thank you for being here and continuing to be a part of our community. When we had worked on the master plan, which I can't believe we have to work on it again already, time has flown so quickly. When we specifically talked about this site, we had talked about making sure that the waterfront was available to the residents, and it sounds like that's something that would be accomplished with your plan, so.
We are in front of you really to only talk about the nature of vacating those roads. The city, there's no dispute about the perimeter or anything at this point in any way. It's effectively just the removal of the physical roads and the ability for us to then think about how then can we use the property.
Sure, that makes sense. So it sounds like we're achieving what we had hoped when we had first talked about what to do with the parcel.
And I would also add, part of this comes from exactly what Matt was talking about, which is the roads, in my opinion, Fern, this would be my opinion, the roads would cost to get them to the standards that they need to be, if we couldn't do this, would be massive. In fact, the roads to the north, in my estimation, would cost $4 to $5 million just to put back. The ability to repair those roads after sitting for effectively 18-plus years here, and from 1978, they're gone on the other portions, would be prohibitive, and also it would cost the city a great deal of money. We're hoping that this is met with open arms, because we're hoping to develop this in such a way that, once again, we could do something really interesting and have it become a huge asset for the city of Pontiac.
Sure, and I understand to take the roads out, it gives you that blank slate.
Yeah.
I totally support that, so, sounds good to me. Thank you.
Commissioner Payne, please.
Well, good evening, and thank you for making that site such a beautiful site. I mean, it's really done really well.
Thank you.
Well, you've answered two of my questions in regards to the undeveloped streets. That was where they undeveloped, and so they are. I guess, and you don't know what you're going to do with the undeveloped streets, so that's the second question you've answered. In regards to, Mr. Gustafson?
Yeah.
Property value, is there a property value on those streets? And that's just something I just wanted to know, or?
In regards to the value of,
Of the vacant, of the streets that are not being used now? Normally just kind of giving away streets and.
well, there's public utilities, utilities that are underneath there, there'll be, there's a number of utilities, I believe, under virtually every road, so they would be functioning of that value because of those utilities that are going to be there and maintained for the development, for future development.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have just one question, Bill. As an architect, which you are, a highly respected architect, it'd be a fair assumption that any coherent redevelopment of that area cannot take place unless there's really vacating the streets.
That's correct. And also, I would further add, my opinion would be that if Mr. Hance, which he has no intention of doing, but if he were going to sell the property, if he were going to turn around and sell it because, for whatever reason, the ability to do that currently relative to those streets would be prohibitive. Basically, they're not in good enough shape to develop. And they're not configured, in my mind, from a design, and this is a very malleable thing, but to my mind, when I look at the property, and if I were going to put single-family houses on there, then the relationship of the size of those houses, whether they could be market rate, subsidized, whatever those things are, that would really have to change. If you look at this doesn't follow any grid system, any pattern. It's really not. It really was developed for a maximum density, which I believe is probably, if there's one thing that I might know, it's probably not to do that again. And I think that's really the problem.
So, yeah, my last question would be, said another way, virtually no developer is going to come in with any kind of plan until he's got a clean slate, or there is a clean slate, so that you can conceptualize.
That's exactly correct.
And probably in the higher density, multiple dwelling, but anyhow, that answers my question.
Yeah.
So, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open public hearing. Public hearing is open. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Robert Bass. I'm president of Woodward Estates Neighborhood Association, District 1, and that is in our district. And we have no problem with the vacation of the streets. In fact, we've hoped for a couple of years that it would go on and get done, because we've had many talks regarding that peninsula. And also, even though there was no development plan, we had talks about getting it cleaned up. That means all the overgrowth and debris, so they can be seen from every area, because that's part of what's wrong in Pontiac, or the overgrowth, that it does not look attractive. And we wanted it to be attractive to real estate, whomever. And that's what they said they would do. They said they would clean it up. And it puts them on the road to starting with the infrastructure. So whatever plan they come up with, hopefully we'll still be in the process of getting presentations and having our say. We know that we have our say here. We know that we have a say at council. So before we get to that point, that's when we want to continue those conversations. Now, some of the other streets that's been talked about, I don't know exactly where they are located right now, but we didn't have that conversation. I didn't get a presentation at our meetings regarding that. But I do support the vacation of those streets. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Graham Casano, 278 West Iroquois Road, and I am a professor of sociology at Oakland University, and I mention that because I come here both as an interested resident and as a scholar. I'm writing a book right now with Professor John Carroll, an archaeologist, and Professor Dan Clark, a historian at Oakland University, on this piece of property, and in particular on the Lakeside Housing Project. And I mention this because there are a couple of things that I think are worth noting. The first is that the Lakeside Housing Project that's been demolished was the first housing project in southeastern Michigan and in the first in Oakland County as well, and is a historical landmark, and this land is important historical land. In addition to that, it's right now public land. Now, a lot of people don't know that, and the reason I started writing about the lakeside is riding along the Clinton River Trail from my house, I kind of stumbled on it. And I was astounded, as Mayor Waterman has mentioned, by the physical beauty of the space. Now, I understand why Mr. Hance and Mr. Massey want the roadways, and I understand that there's been some talk about preserving access to the lake, but nobody's making a promise. There are no guarantees. There's no plan for development. Right now, the roadway that runs along the outside of the peninsula is actually connecting two parks on either side of the peninsula. If that roadway easement is given away to Mr. Hance and Mr. Massey, we lose that connection. People will no longer have access to those parks. I mean, it's true, they'll be there, but they won't be used. Now, as a sociologist and someone who teaches in criminal justice as well, I can tell you that the way we keep people safe is to have our public space used. The way you keep it used is give people access to it. Let them know that it exists. If they don't have access to it, if they don't know it exists, then it's of course not going to be safe. This could be a lovely, especially just along the lakeside, could be a lovely public park. In fact, this should be a lovely public park. That's our road that right now Mr. Hance and Mr. Massey want in their possession. We lose our parkland if we give away that road. We lose healthy Pontiac, right? I mean, part of what we need for a healthy Pontiac is green space. That's incredible green space there. Now, again, I'm not making the argument that you shouldn't give Mr. Massey and Mr. Hance some of the easements. But I think it would be a serious mistake to give away the easement on the outside of the peninsula. The name of the road is Walters, I believe. And I think it would be a serious mistake to give that easement away. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I respond?
No.
Is it possible for me to respond?
Well, we have another public comment.
Okay,
and
sure.
We'll bring you back, Bill.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Mary Pedlar, as you all well know. I live at 195 West Kennett at this time. I am also a council person, so I have to explain that to you. What the gentleman is talking about as being Walters is also known as Howard McNeil. It was known as Howard McNeil back in the 80s when it wasn't safe for me to be out there. The parks are not going to be eliminated if you vacate Howard McNeil, because you can access the Crystal Lake Park by coming down Lake Street. You can also access the other park when you come down Gillespie off of Bagley. So there is no reason why they shouldn't be. They already own the property. It's not public property. Mr. Hance bought that property, I believe, in 2016, And they paid for this to come in front of the Planning Commission in June 12th of 2017. But it's taken that long. That property has been sitting there. I was a property manager over at Woodcrest Commons when we moved the last resident off of that site and into Woodcrest Commons because they had to move off of that. It wasn't safe any longer. So when we have property that has sat there since 2000, this is 2019, that's 19 years that we haven't gotten anything for it, we haven't given anything for it, we haven't done anything to it, including cleanup, until last year. So I'm going to ask that you please utilize that property, allow them to build on it, allow them to develop it. That is what this city has always said we wanted to do, was development. This is a perfect spot, a perfect example of what needs to be developed, and we have people here that are willing to develop it. Mr. Massey has already spoke to you, Mr. Farrell has already spoke to you, and they have shared what the thoughts are and what the outlines are. We've all been over to the Bowen Center. If you have any interest in that property, you have been to the Bowen Center and you have seen the drawings. You have been there when we gave our ideas, what we wanted to happen over there. You have heard them talk about it. It's not necessarily anything that they're just wasting their time. They have given us many hours. They have shared with us. Councilwoman Waterman and Mr. Bass over here with Woodward Estates Association have been gracious enough to open their meeting for everybody and anybody in the city to come and to be able to be a part of that. I'm going to ask you to please consider favorably allowing them to vacate those streets. We have been waiting long enough to see those streets being used for something. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Coleman Yoakum, 29 Waldo. I'm with Mr. Casano in that this is a beautiful piece of property. There are a good number of citizens who do love that space for what it is right now, and I know that is not how it's going to stay, and development is great, and I'm very excited about that. A couple of things I haven't heard is who's paying for this project and who's paying to tear those up. That hasn't come up in either side of the conversation yet. And the other thing is that this is, and I'm in a lot of meetings downtown, and people who talk about the future of the city, and there are great plans and great things that are coming together. And people who, citizens who are sitting down and really creating really exciting ideas and things like that. And just one of those is the walkability, bikeability plan that's coming together. It has come together and is great. And there are a number of us in this room who talk often about what does it look like to run a bike route through here and through this part of town. And I'm excited to see sort of as the plans come together and the development plans do come together that I hope that is part of the plan. And a far future, and this might be my paranoia, and I'll say this and then I'll take my answers off the air because I brought my wife here on date night, and she's not happy. And so is that if should it ever come up, in these meetings all the time we talk about, we look back and we want to kick somebody in the butt that doesn't exist anymore for deciding to bury the Clinton River Trail, or the Clinton River. And we talk all the time about how great it would be to have a water feature and a piece of property along this part of town that just near water. And should the conversation ever come up in the future, and I believe, Mr. Massey, that it never will, about giving up the access to that water, that we don't do that. That this is the next vote about burying the Clinton River. And I don't want to be on the wrong side of that and have my kids 50 years from now wanting to kick me in the butt for being part of that. So thank you guys so much. I'm going to go on a date. We'll see you later. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Excellent, Carl.
Carlton Jones, I'm back again from Pontiac. I want to say I got some history with this property years ago back when it was demolished and I was engaged with the House Commission. And even at that particular time, we realized how important this piece of property was to the city. And what I want to say is all of our residents, and I think we're great to have the commissioners do their job as planners. we have to start trusting, doing our proper due diligence and vetting our developers when they come to town. Because when quality developers come to town, we got to be very much in tune to working with them, and don't be so much us and them. Quality developers, when they come, there is a process that they go through to do their due diligence and to get properly in a position that they can develop it. And this property, I think, in asking for a vacation is right in line what a good quality developer would want to see before they go into saying what they're going to do with it. So just know that when we do have people come and we do our due diligence of making sure that they're quality developers and have a planning commission and zoning people doing their job, that's what we want. We want to start seeing how we can embrace them and try to see how we can help them so we can develop our city, because there's no way that property should have been sitting, even though I know it was in the hands of HUD, and being like that for so many years. So I think what Mr. Massey has demonstrated, what he did with that Hayes Jones Center, gives us an indication of what quality developers do when they come to your city. So I think we as people here in Pontiac who care about it, we got to start trying to find some way to make sure when we're doing our vetting other developer, we really do need to check them out. But once they do qualify, we need to see how we can start embracing and working with them to get what we want with developers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carl.
Hi, I'm Roz Hardigan, 278 West Iroquois Road. I just want to point out that my concern, it is a beautiful piece of property. Everybody, I think, is in agreement of that. But a lot of the waterfront is owned by the city, and particularly the tip point is really only accessed by Carl Walters Drive. So my concern would be definitely vacation of the interior streets. But if the city gives away the land with Carl Walters Drive, I really don't know how anybody's going to get to that park at the end. I don't see any public access. So I appreciate that those roads are not serviceable and there's no real way to restore them to serviceability, but I don't think that it makes sense for Pontiac to give away that land. It's like, I know that I also appreciate the tennis courts. I think they're beautiful. I'm not saying that Mr. Massey and Mr. Hans are not good developers. I just think Pontiac needs some assurances or some recourse to keeping access to those parks.
Thank you very much.
Again, Brett Reynolds, 50 Dakota, Pontiac, Michigan. I'm relieved to see Mr. Massey here because I was doing some research myself on this project, and I was confused as to the ownership of 16 of the parcels that are owned by PLTC 2, 3, and 4. And then there's the one parcel that's owned by Hans Pontiac 1. I concur entirely with our historian and scholar here that one of the things that I think is an emotional pull for a lot of people in the city is that that land had a bittersweet and also proud, at one point, heritage, and means a lot to people. And to see all these streets disappear with no plan to memorialize or to have it built into the plan is concerning to me. The perimeter street, I think it's imperative that it be retained. I just think it's absolutely imperative that to landlock the asset. There is no perimeter road on Crystal Lake, and this is the only spot that there is. I don't know if that's a concern for emergency vehicles and such. I know that somebody is quite close to his brother drowned in that lake, and they came through the lakeside properties to perform the emergency services and such. A couple other things is I think that the idea of conceptualizing and the idea of dreaming is to imagine what it could be. But I don't think you have to vacate anything to imagine. I think that you could actually, I think we put the cart before the horse here. I think there should be a plan. I think there should be several plans. You have a design competition, I don't know, but of how to best use this land. If those were canals, nobody would dream of vacating them or filling them in. They wouldn't be obstructions to this gorgeous piece of property if they were retained in some way, if they were asphalt roads through. It reminds me of Central Park in New York. It reminds me of, there was no reason to have Central Park in New York. Nobody imagined that this sheep meadow and these fields where nobody lived would ever be of use to the city. I think we're missing a great opportunity here to have some kind of mixed use. I'd also like to add that your point is very well taken, that it's a connection to the two parks that's important. Having two separate accesses does not in any way empower people to take and make use of that land and the lakefront. I have a couple other points, but I was, I'm also concerned that there are currently so many violations on this land. There's an open violation that's been going on for months about dumping, and there's another inspection on the 12th regarding this. So I have concerns about that. And also, Mr. Lance is a somewhat controversial figure in the city of Detroit for land speculation and what they consider a land grab, and then selling back to Fiat Chrysler and trading properties and displacing people of color from their properties with the woodland farm, with the farms. And that's documented. Anybody can read their newspaper articles about this. So I don't think we need to jump to vacating this land. I think that we might have them come up with a plan and then vacate properly after that. So those are my points. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck.
Thank you very much, Chuck Johnson, again, 455 South Boulevard East. I'm very pleased to know that Bill Massey is a part of this endeavor, along with the developer and others, because I know that if anything happens on this property, it's going to be upper class, whatever. And I agree with each person that came to the mic and spoke tonight in favor of the vacation of the roads. It's paramount that they need to be done. And to the historian, this is not the original project, as you may call it. We had a project before that, which is called the old projects, and they built these, and this came along a second time around. Anyways, I was also happy that Carlton was here, because he's the man who worked for the Housing Commission, and I was allowed to do the demolition of the projects. And at that time, Mayor Walter Moore reserved the opportunity to keep the roads and the infrastructure in place in hopes that someone would come along and do a development or build some houses. And we had a lot of speculators back then, and a lot of overview and a lot of thoughts and a lot of talk. Well, now we have someone, a bird in the hand, if you will, that's going to look favorable at developing the property. And again, Bill Massey is key in this, along with the owner. And I'm just hopeful that you approve what they want here tonight. I know they have some more hurdles they got to jump before they even take the roads out or vacate them, is what we're talking about. Because we do have the utilities that Gustafson made mention. Those have to be addressed. When you take the roads out, you've got all your utilities underground that could get damaged or whatever. So with that in mind, I like to think that this developer can get the job done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bill.
Good evening. My name is Irene Wright, and I think we can all agree that it is okay to disagree. However, we have had very open relationships with Mr. Massey. I think one of the positiveness of this is that as development comes in, and we treat our developers as welcome to this city, more will come. And I guess I want to look at it from an economic perspective, because I'm a senior citizen, and the more economy that comes into our city, I think it will help reduce our taxes. And I'm also in sociology, and I understand the perspective of a person and the socialist nature. However, we need to take one step at a time. And my hat says, why not? Why not invest? Why not take the opportunity to see? And I also agree that, as we go into phases, we can then go back and address those issues. But to leave the property the way it is right now, to not vacate those roads, would leave us in a dismal situation. So I concur with a Woodward estate, with, I think, our council person, and I hope that the vote tonight will be positive. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay. How many more public comments do we have? And I'd like to, and I say this, we're working into the night, we've still got items on here. If you have a fresh case, something fresh to say, then we want to hear it. But if we're going to kind of go over the same ground, but anyhow, go ahead, please.
Daniel Martinez, I own the Alley Cat Cafe in downtown Pontiac, and I'm here kind of selfishly. I am looking for more growth in the downtown area. And one thing that I'm seeing is we have this great opportunity with Bodett Park, the Clinton River Trail. I always crack up at the little sign here in the corner, because the Clinton River Trail, if you look at the website, it tells you there's a section where it goes through Pontiac where we don't know what to do yet. It basically spells that out. It's like we get to Pontiac and we stop, and then we'll start on the other side once we get out of Pontiac. And that's just kind of silly as far as I'm concerned. What you've done with the tennis courts and that facility is great. Everyone that's around here that bikes along there and all that is all concerned about closing off the access to the water. And I have a feeling, just based on what you've done with that facility, you'll make the most of that space. And if somehow the Clinton River Trail can run along the river and come back out all the way to Bagley and be part of this greater recreational area, we have a beautiful 18-hole golf course that's been taken over privately, but it is a public course. And I've played it recently. They did a very nice job on that course. The tennis courts, I would hate to see them sold. I know there's reasons why you're considering selling it. I'd hate to see it go, because it's part of a piece of something that's bigger. Golf courses, the only grass courts, tennis courts in the Midwest, maybe a larger area. The beautiful lake, have parks. We're really working hard on getting the skateboard park at Rotary Park, which is right across the street from the Weston Tennis Courts, which would be another addition. So from Bodett Park all the way to Telegraph, all the way to Woodward, it's all recreation that we don't make the most of. All right? So I don't want them to stop what they're doing. I want them to put that in the back of their head as to part of what they're doing. You're in the dead center of what could be a great recreational facility for Oakland County. We're not even talking about Pontiac. We're talking about the bigger picture. And so that's really all I have to say, is that if you do approve for them to remove the roads, that they consider that it's still part of something bigger. And when they build it, that they build it with these things in mind. A little riverside road or a bike path, something that's going to contribute to the community and make it, we'll all be better for it. So.
Thank you. Well said, and you run a good business.
All you gotta do is make a little money.
Don't we all?
Good evening, Peterson Cullimore. I'm at 578 West Iroquois. We moved to Pontiac 3 years ago. A large reason was the green space, the access to the Clinton River Trail right from Seminole Hills. I too stumbled upon it, this great piece of land. And I just ask that everyone consider the bigger vision of activating the water and the natural spaces and resources that the city has. I'm all for development of the property, but with just a little bit of conservation of the public-owned green space. So, thanks.
Thank you. Can I see a show of hands of how many other public comments are coming forward? Okay, so this is the last public comment?
Yes.
All right.
Hello, I'm Billy Swayze, 1619 March Bank. And I'd like to first of all correct you, Ms. Peetler. You see where that round part that comes out and just kind of stops above the peninsula? That's Branch Street. And then just south of that is Howard McNeil. It's not Walter. They're not the same street. Walter was put in later because the police couldn't get over in that area. They never went to the projects. So, the mayor, what I would like to know is, have you already sold the easements to these people? So if you haven't sold the easements, I'd like you to say that at the council meeting, because I have a concern about this property being sold. I, of course, lived in that area, grew up in that area, watched the people drown in that lake, because it does have an undercurrent. And if they develop it, go ahead, develop it, maybe the undercurrent, and get some people, and they'll just go ahead and die. Because it is a strong undercurrent. And it is nice to hear that there's 2 parks. Never had one over there when I grew up, off of Lake Street, and neither did we have one off of Gillespie. My concern is that this is just the start. When you finish vacating all this, you can start vacating the whole area, because that's what they're going to do. And they're going to take over the lake, and the Pontiac residents are not going to have access to it. We're not going to get no road. We're not going to get anything. It's just going to be, oh, we got something nice here. But you're all politicians of one sort or another. So do what you do, and we'll live what you do. We're what you do.
Thank you. Bill, I'm going to ask you to come forward because we're going to answer the questions, and you're the best person to answer those questions.
Could I respond to just a couple things briefly?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman? I don't know. This is out. Oh, no, there we go.
There you go.
I also am a scholar. I'm not a historian, and I would never pretend, but I am also a scholar and an academic. I just want to respond a little bit to the questions about my partner, John Hance. There have been some discussions about public sentiment relative to what he's done in Detroit. I will suggest that I am an enormous, I would suggest that everyone should view the film Land Grab, which is a documentary film which was made about that process, and talk to each and every one of the people in the community that lives very, very close. I invited John Hance to basically begin our urban design program with a friend and a colleague, another scholar from Princeton University named Marshall Brown. So John and Marshall Brown came down to the University of Kentucky, and we went to Louisville and discussed urban design strategies and alternative urban design strategies. And this is my point also about the vacating of the roads. We do not have a plan. There isn't a plan, but part of the construction of a plan, even in conceptualizing it, is the idea to have an interim plan. The interim plan we have. That is to clean up the property, to make sure that it is not someplace that people can hide a body, which happened very, very recently. Someone was killed, and then his body was dumped there for some time. I am the biggest advocate of connecting the Clinton River Trail as a biking, walking path through that property, through the adjacent property that I own. Would love to do that. I think John is amenable to many, many things. But step one is we have to eliminate the blight. And this is what John successfully did. I am arguing that is what he successfully did in Detroit. And relative to the history of this site, in 1948, this site was not even configured that way. This lake was prior called Mud Lake in its incarnation.
We're not going to debate.
I'm sorry.
Not going to debate.
Yeah, so in 1948, it was a third its size. The city, once the water was managed, and after it became quote-unquote Crystal Lake, the city of Pontiac built the island in the center of the lake. So this property doesn't have a 20 to 30-year history. In the context of history, not just the significant histories relative to social condition, which I very much believe in. This history is long. This history is 200 years. The building that I purchased from the city of Pontiac was built in 1909. It was slated for demolition, and that was then the it was the Pontiac Waterworks. Things change, development changes. It became the Hayes-Jones Community Center. It was abandoned. It was an eyesore. It was the place that people burned sofas, and the amount of trash that we had to pull out was incredible. At the end of the day, it became what I developed it. And I do want to suggest that there's nobody in this room that can suggest that I didn't do exactly what I said. And part of it was a pre-plan. And this is what we're talking about. The plan, when Mr. Hance, myself, Matt, decide that we have a plan, we have to come to planning. We have to come to city council. None of those things we can do on our own. We need approvals for all of those things. Those things will be formally, clearly, and intelligently vetted by the city of Pontiac. We are just asking for the removal, or our ability to remove the roads which are a hazard, which are prohibiting our development, and even, if I will, prohibiting our ability to think clearly about how to develop it and make it an amazing place. So with that, I'll sit back down.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to close public hearing, and I guess before I go to let me go to the mayor. I'm not sure if you wanted to answer that question, but then I'm going to...
Which question? Oh, the question about the easement? I can easily, I answered that from the very beginning.
Okay.
I'm sorry. The question about the easement, I answered that from the very beginning.
Okay.
And I can state it again. And that has been very critical and very important to me. That, in fact, show that other drawing here, the one that shows the area on both sides and outlines the easement. I thought you had another one. Okay, all right, that's good enough. Although the easement isn't as easy to outline. The city owns all of the easement all around the border of the peninsula, and then we also own all that property to the west of there, which is not completely identified. You get an idea. That is Crystal Lake. That is ours. That can remain ours. You know, they're not asking for that. And I understand you scholars, and I appreciate the fact, I'm so happy that people realize that this is an asset for the city, that we need to maintain some access to this lake for the owners, for these owners of the city of Pontiac, because we are the owners of it, and that we need to maintain that. Let me finish, Bill. I know where you're going. So the streets that they're asking to be vacated, it's taken this long since they bought the property for me to be ascertained that there was no damage to the easement rights that we have. And by easement rights, as I said, there's other easement rights from the utilities. Even if they develop that property, the city has to maintain those easement rights, and we have to maintain access to those easement rights unless, citizens decide to sell a portion of that. But, and I appreciate what you're saying, Graham, too, but when you vacate the streets, you're just vacating the care and maintenance of the streets. We're not building any gated community, okay? And they're still not private roads. We can still access any of the roads. And any development that would be approved, the attorneys will make sure that we have a right to access our easement. Right, Bill?
Yeah, you're correct, and I would just want to make one clarification, because this nomenclature has been used, and Vern, you might be able to help me. Actually, the property that exists around the edge, if you go back to the other aerial photograph and property description, it is technically not an easement, it is just owned by the city of Pontiac.
Yeah.
It is not, I just want to make sure we're understanding, because easements from a planning and architectural standpoint are different than property ownership. So the property is actually two parcels, it's a single parcel which begins at Crystal Lake and then wraps around, and at some points, outside of the water is approximately 4.5 feet into the water. So I also just wanted to address the fact that the two entry points would not be affected in any way.
Right. And I've assured ourselves of that. So, and for the reason I want the larger drawing to be shown is because we're looking at the peninsula, which was owned by the Pontiac Housing Authority. They had every right, HUD gave them the waiver to sell it, so they sold it to the bidder, and they handled that. But the city maintains the property adjacent to that. Now, the other thing that would limit access is if it were a gated community. And when I first became mayor, there was a group that came to us, not Mr. Hans, came to us and said, ultimately they want to put a gated community. Said, no way. So the roads are not private once they're vacated. It just means the city doesn't have to maintain them. And right now, they're responsible, Mr. Hans is responsible for keeping the property, peninsula, clean and free of blight. But the city has had to do the roads, and so by vacating the roads, then Mr. Hans becomes responsible for making sure those are maintained and there's not blight and, as you said, dumping and all those things going on that property, which has been a problem for us, So I like it that we're looking at that whole area, and I think if you even talk about this whole recreational corridor, it's shown as that on the new master plan for Parks and Recreation that is currently being drafted. It's not just Lake Park, it's not just the lakefront, but this is also the fact we have Rotary Park just above there, beautiful park, it has potential. We also have the Clinton River Trail, as you mentioned. We also have now golf and tennis, so there's a whole recreational corridor in that area that can be further developed, and that's the concept too. So those are things I wanted to say, and just wanted to clarify that. Yes, I hope I've answered the question once and for all. Yes, that is property that's owned by us, and we should never lose control of access to that. So that's a legacy for future generations, although the kind of developments might look like, I'd like to conceive what we could do to develop that area and maybe revitalize Crystal Lake Park too. There is still a boathouse from when that area was used. There's an old boathouse there. So that's something we can get along to do, and I hope we can visualize that maybe in the near future. It's something in cooperation. Okay.
As I said, I had closed public comments. I'd like to make a comment to this gentleman and to you as well. In the world of hypotheticals or the perfect world versus the real world, I think you said it could be and it should be, and you said if it was canals, well, it isn't could be and it isn't should be, and it's sat there for 20 years vacant and derelict, and there isn't a laundry list of developers coming by to try to develop it because partially the land isn't developable. So until you get it sorted to the point where you can kind of conceptualize what you can do, this commission, or at least I've been on this commission, we started out with the world's largest vacant industrial parcels in the world when GM left town. So, we populated them with M1 concourse, with Ultimate Soccer. Of course, there was Wesson Lawn Tennis Club. We repurposed the entire 21-acre Wisner site. We repurposed Pontiac Central High School. And as Carlton said, if you don't take work with the developers that know what they're going to know what they're doing, and there's no one who can stand up and prove of taking over a vacant, derelict piece of land and turning it into an absolute gem. I've got friends in this country, in Asia Pacific, where I used to work, that say they've Googled on map, and Wesson Lawn Tennis Center, the first lawn tennis center built in this country in a century. You can't afford to do that anywhere. Bill Massey did it. He had a vision, he had a plan, and he delivered on his promise. So,
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
no, public hearing is closed. Public hearing is closed. You made, excuse me. Excuse me, public hearing is closed. For you and everybody. So anyhow, I'm going to go to my fellow commissioners for final comments before we go to a motion. So Commissioner Northcross, please.
Well, one concern is that I'm hearing is that of what happens next if we do go forward. And I think that's a very good concern, what happens next. And I think that's something that we as a community have to ask on this project and every other project in the city. What happens next? Where are we going? It's one thing to say no, but it's another thing to say, here's where we want to go. Here's what we think it will look like when we get there. Here are some things that we want to see starting to happen. So for that reason, the fact that we do retain ownership, with ownership comes responsibility. Question is, how are we as a city going to live up to that responsibility? To do nothing right now, or to not take that next step that doesn't relieve us of that responsibility. If we do take the next step, we still have the responsibility. So for that reason, I'm inclined to say, let's go ahead with the vacation of the streets. But, let's go ahead with the vacation of the streets and work on where we want to go with this property that has been sitting vacant for a while. Property that has a lot of memories, a lot of good people came out of that area. Who was the guy that wrote the book, The Chicken Bone Express? Well, this is one of the dropping off points of that Chicken Bone Express for many of the folks that came up from the South was this area. There is some historic value to it, but how do we want to preserve it? How do we want to present it? How do we want to put it out there? We got to do something. Don't do something. We don't do something, we lose it. We lose it. Now, I know, had a friend of mine who was a master builder with, she was a master builder with HUD. And she gigged me one time, it must have been about 8-9 years ago. She says, what are you guys doing in Pontiac sitting on that stuff? They're so mad at HUD that we fanned on the puck so many times on that area. When are you going to get something developed there? So I do like the comments about vetting our developers, and once we vetted our developers, working with our developers. So for that reason, I'll end my comments.
Thank you very much. Any further comments or questions?
Vern, could you, more for the people who are listening and who have spoken tonight, if everything is approved tonight for the vacation of the streets, then the applicant comes up with some potential thoughts and ideas, they bring it back to the planning department.
Correct.
And as people have been saying, well, we would like to make sure that we have access to the water, however that happens, roads, whatever. How do we assure the public that they will have some input on what's happening with the parcel?
On a significant project like this, like I'm sure there's other, future sites in the future, I would say here in Pontiac, that could have a similar, I would say that we would probably have a planning commission meeting and post it in regards to talking about what we're doing here at Crystal Lake and that development.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just so people know, things will still be communicated, it's not...
Oh, yeah, very much so.
Okay.
Yeah. I just asked them to, Planning Commission meets every Wednesday of the month. You're welcome. There's all public meetings. You can look at information online in regards to any packet of information or any agenda items will be posted well in advance.
And we don't meet every Wednesday, it's the first Wednesday of the month.
Did I say every Wednesday?
You did.
Oh, gosh.
We don't do that.
First Wednesday every month.
Okay.
Amen.
Great. Nothing
Any
else
further
from me?
comments or questions?
Yes. Good evening once again. I have comments in regards to Normally, when street vacate comes to the commissioners here, for myself, I normally vote based on public access to it. And the last big one was the McLaren, I believe, where we vacated, and I just felt that that was a good thing to do because they have the EMS coming through, so the public have access to that. I believe it was last year or a year before last, Oakland County had a really big brainstorming a session on what we would like to see within the county of all the cities. And one of the things that I brought up is that this area and the old housing I said, wow, we've got the water there. All we need is a building and canoes and paddle boats and fishing rods. And we could draw everyone from every city to that area. And so if we had like the OPYC, which is the Old People and Youth Center, well, of course, I think that that was just a vision that I had. And I just think water is a very valuable tool, and it's getting where we're not going to even have the access to water as we do now. It's going to be like your next goal. And so we should make sure that we're holding on to our water because that is so very important. That's all I believe that, I have to believe because we really don't have a lot of options here. I have to believe that you're going to do your job at making sure that the citizens here in Pontiac and other cities will be able to come and enjoy the city.
Thank you. Any further comments and questions before we have a motion, please?
I would like to make a motion. Let me see what I'm making a motion when I'm saying what I'm saying. I would like to request for street vacation, a resolution for approval. The Pontiac Planning Commission is in receipt of a street vacation request submitted by John Hance to vacate portions of Irene Street, Warner Street, Hess Street, Clovis Street, McAfee Drive, Carl Walters Drive, Howard McNeil Street, and Branch Street, abutting parcel numbers 14-32-180-005, 14-32-186-002, 14-32-251-003, 14-32-252-007, and 008, and 009, and 010, and 014, and 015. 14-32-253-001, and 002, and 003, and 004. 14-32-255-002 and 003. 14-32-326-001. See attached survey and legal description prepared by Reichert Surveying Incorporated dated July 11th of 2019. Whereas the Pontiac Planning Commission finds that the subject streets are not required to remain for access to adjoining property owners, and whereas the Pontiac Planning Commission finds that the proposed street vacation will not have an adverse effect on the surrounding properties, and whereas the Pontiac Planning Commission finds that all permanent utility easements be obtained and recorded following to City Council approval, and now therefore be it resolved to vacate portions of Irene Street, Warner Street, Hess Street, Clovis Street, McAfee Drive, Carl Walters Drive, Howard McNeil Street, and Branch Street, abutting parcel numbers, and do I need to read this all again? same parcel numbers as I've already said.
Yes.
And hereby recommend for approval to the city council, subject to the property owners providing any and all necessary permanent utility easements.
Thank you. May we have a support second?
Support.
Okay. Any further comments or question before we go to roll call? Mr. Gustafson, roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Parlov.
Yes to approve.
Commissioner Northcross.
Yes.
Commissioner Payne.
Yes to approve.
Mayor Waterman.
Yes?
Chair Dane Thomas.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much for
Congratulations, Bill.
your consideration and your time, Thank you.
Good luck. Let us know how we can help. Thank you. Okay,
Chairman, the item ZMA 19-10, that's 841 Auburn, that's been removed from the
Yes,
agenda?
it has. That was in the, excuse me,
And the new,
in the amended agenda. It was taken off.
okay, and now we go to new business, and this item is address that I'm quite familiar with, 7 South Glenwood Avenue, and Mr. Gustafson will present, please.
Okay. That time I was going to do this. Okay. Here we have South Glenwood. What they're proposing is a new development project within the Glenwood Plaza, which is approximately about 28 acres. And what we're doing tonight is approving the lot split. There are, here, the smaller graphic here represents the overall outline of the parcel. It is made up of roughly about 5 parcels that have been, will be formally combined and split into 2 configurations. Roughly, the area that represents in purple represents 1 parcel, and roughly about 7 acres, and then you have a little bit over 20-some acres, 21, 22 acres, that's all in blue. And the overall development is, has a mixed use. You have industry, you have retail, also robotics firm. It does, the goal here is, as part of a medical marijuana mixed-use kind of development of various growers and processors that we understand that is being planned for the former Glenwood Plaza. We have seen some conceptual plans. The applicants are here to provide a very quick overview, general overview. These plans have not been viewed. Technical review, obviously, their application hasn't gone in yet. They haven't been vetted through the city clerk in regards to their application at this time. So, but they did want to get out ahead of the process. I'll use my word carefully here. And with that being said, I'll be happy to answer any of the questions that the commission may have.
Okay, the petitioner's here, correct?
Yes, they are.
Please come forward, state your name and address for the, wow. The football team's coming up here.
Right. Don't want to leave any stone unturned. Justin Danaskis Consulting Development, 169 Clarkston. And then we also have, let them introduce themselves. We also have the representatives from the applicants from Rubicon Capital, as well as the civil engineer for the site as well. So I'll introduce them, I guess. So we have Manny Ferriulo, as well as Joe Brown, both from Rubicon Capital, the applicants and folks that have the property under contract, as well as our architect Scott Keir with Spalding Decker.
Okay, thank you. You heard Mr. Gustafson's presentation of, I mean, really what we're here for right now is a lot split, but anything that you'd like to add to or enhance or modify or change?
Wonderful, yes, and just keeping on for the lot split first, then we'll give you just a brief kind of 20,000-foot overview what the overall vision is as we hope to be back in front of you and have schedules for a number of requests, all part and parcel to this
but just a little precursor and so forth on the lot combination and split. There is 5 parcels currently. If we don't quite have the overlay of the parcels currently, there really isn't a whole lot of rhyme or reason to how it was developed as the old shopping center anchored. So by combining these, even with the existing plan, it really does kind of make sense. The existing uses that are kind of going on in the back of the center versus the front, more commercial with some light warehousing and stuff going on. And then as it relates to the actual proposed larger development, what we're looking to bring forth is redevelopment into a kind of a new age business park. And so capturing the cannabis industry to utilize to take up some of the anchor space, if you will, and then repurposing the overall site. If you want to grab the kind of conceptual one. The plan is we see these shopping centers that are anchored and Amazon taking away at them, so forth, to repurpose them. So with new facade, new work, to have an encompassing, inviting development for light manufacturing, cannabis growers, processors, a grocery store, others, with the right facades and different barriers. The hope is to create a synergistic kind of new age, and I don't have a good name for them, I'm not a marketer, but, don't think industrial park, or, a strip center. It's a business park where, again, with the right facades, amenities, we can attract both where we would have it proposed if we create the marijuana overlay district for grower back here, and then coming up to a robotics company anchored over here with a mix of a new strip center with traditional retailers, mixed-use service centers, repurposing the restaurant that's on site to either a fast casual restaurant, or someone is looking to propose, the tenant who's anchoring this will propose a provisioning center, not asking for anything there, they'll apply for that. And then we have a grocery anchored development here with a portion of it to be left for kind of like the Rust Belt farmers market, not necessarily as grand as like an East, down in Detroit, Eastern market, but the smaller, so you have a traditional grocer up front. It'll probably take a little bit of time to catch on, but these smaller markets that also provide venue space in the back too are really kind of popular and bring a different aspect to fresh produce in addition to the grocery stores have normal hours. So really what we come to tonight, we want to kind of wet the whistle, if you will, so to speak, conceptually overall what we're looking to do here, which is again, redevelop this 28 acres of Glenwood Plaza. And to do that, there'd be a series of different asks will be coming in front of you. One would be to create an overlay district for this area. And then coming back to the request tonight is you see how we're looking to kind of split the 2 parcels with this combination and split of the parcels. Would also come back and ask for with the conditional rezoning to have these 2 parcels line up also with the proposed zoning.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to go on record and say I sent a couple emails, and I want to clarify that for the record. About 5 or 6 months ago, I was involved with some preliminary conversations with regard to this project, and then that came through, so I've been engaged in a couple. So I was born and raised there, where that Kmart was, which was the largest Kmart in the world when it was built. That used to be a swamp, and so when I was a 10-year-old kid, we used to play hockey down there. But that was then, and this is now. But the idea that it's been sitting vacant, derelict, for 20 years, I am a bullish on trying to revitalize, the whole neighborhood. I formed a 501c3, and so this is a 27, 28-acre site, so I'm bullish on that. My criticism was with regard to how you were engaging the local residents. I made my remarks on paper, in email. That's not the conversation for tonight. Kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, to take the first step, before we can get to that, we got to do the lot split, like the preliminary plan. So I'm fully in favor of the slot split moving forward. Obviously, you'll have to come through with that. You know where my heart is with regard to that market.
Yep.
You get that market, you will win over every neighbor in that neighborhood. So,
Duly noted, and that's where we're trying to get the response from the neighborhood, from the stakeholders, obviously you and, and everyone in this board commission. We're trying to be very open and transparent with the process, making sure we're not trying to shove something in there that doesn't fit. And I really think the feedback we've been getting and so forth, and what you'll see in part of the agreements is what we'll deliver. So we appreciate that.
So anyhow, I just wanted to make it clear that I'm a proponent. I wasn't critical of the plan. I was just critical of kind of last Saturday night's gathering. So I'll leave it there. go to my fellow commissioners. Commissioner Northcross, please.
Help me out. I'm having trouble visualizing. As I understand, the picture that's on the left, outlined in red, is the existing property. That's one large piece of property.
There's 5 parcels, 28 acres total. The red, just so we're clear, that's the total 28 acres if you're just looking at what we're asking for with all the parcels combined.
Okay, and then the picture on the right is...
The new lines that we're proposing, that Spalding Decker engineered, wrote up the descriptions for and so forth. So that would be with the 2 new parcels that would look like once you do the combination and split. And then, as the chair mentioned, I think it is pretty pertinent too, to even how it consistently, kind of lays out. But again, full forward, we're not, we're going to redevelop, we're coming forth with other asks, but this would create the 2 new parcels. Pink would be one parcel, the blue would be another parcel. And that's also really just being consistent with kind of what's going on there. And then once we hopefully obtain the rezonings, then your parcel lines would also match what the zoning districts are, which I think is also always a good, move as well, to keep things kind of neat and clean on zoning maps and so forth.
There are a lot of lines on that picture. I'm trying to figure out what are the lot lines, and it looks like there's outlines of maybe buildings.
Yeah, the heavier lines would represent the buildings that run along the edges of the property.
Okay.
And so we really try to take a lot of thought into not only what we're going to redevelop, also what's there, because it's a redevelopment and repurposing a lot of it. And so again, the blue all shaded, just think of the color, that's one parcel. The pink is another parcel. And then again, this nicely shows too that even on the existing, if we never did anything, you approve this, it makes sense, I think, with the lot combination split, just what's already there, let alone what we're proposing for the redevelopment.
So we're looking at going to 2, combining the
5
5?
parcels, yeah.
5 into 2.
Yeah, and the 5, I wish I had the overlay. You would see, there's really no rhyme or reason. They don't match up with any buildings or anything really. There were old parcels that before this development were never combined when they did the development. So I wish I could bring that up on the GIS, but the parcels really don't configure with any of the buildings or anything currently either.
And so we, in essence, have one parcel that has frontage on the street, and then another parcel that does not.
Yeah, with, commercial in the front and, proposed M1 in the back, so kind of transitional zoning with it as well.
And are we talking easements for access to the parcels that are in the back, or I mean, that doesn't become just an orphan parcel sitting there, does it?
The intent at the next level would be to put an easement in where you see there's an existing path that was the main road in the plaza. That's the lines that you're seeing right there, and those are the curb lines actually of the existing site.
Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Scott Kerr, and my address is 2716 Mercury Court, Lake Orion.
Okay, thank you.
And essentially, the easement would go down as the main entrance there to the back parcel. There may be another easement designed to go strictly down, but at this conceptual point, we didn't want to put easements on there until we get approval of the primary split.
Okay, I guess that would come up if we did any site plans.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
that
Yeah,
we
cross-access
have.
agreements and all of that would occur at that time, and that's down the road.
Okay, so we end up with basically just 2 large parcels of property.
Correct. The previous parcels were all 5 direct lines, essentially going east-west, and they didn't divide it through the buildings, and there was no exact reasoning with what's out there development-wise.
And we want the 2 for what would distinguish one of the new parcels from the other? What's the thinking for having just 2?
The zoning, to meet the zoning that they're proposing, they wanted the parcels to exactly meet where they're designing the zoning.
Okay, and that goes back to the request for possibly an overlay district.
Yeah, not to try to confuse, but no, the overlay district create the opportunity for the grow and processor, and then we're also looking to, straight rezone to C1 in the front, which again will have the grocery store anchored, the freestanding, could be a provision center or restaurant, fast casual, and then the strip center. So if you can imagine that purple shaded out here, it really kind of matches up with the proposed, landscaping walls and then where commercial uses would be. And then again, with this New Age Business Park, robotics, lighter manufacturing, cannabis production and processing in the back. So it kind of just naturally kind of lines it up with the zoning and what our uses are. And again, I really think is also what's kind of there and how it lays out now, even if cannabis goes away or this, which it's not, but it kind of lines up with us, so what's currently going on the site as well, much better than what the current 5 parcels do.
Yeah, and I guess I do have a little concern about actual cannabis growing unless it's, somewhat contained in a building, which I think is supposed to.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got the odor control and all of that going on.
In fact, that's in your proposal, I think.
Correct,
That's
yeah.
all gated and
Correct.
have security.
Yeah, and again, we can explain as much as you want. I just don't want to overwhelm or make them task. But yes, you'll see with the plan, there's the actual guard security area as well. So, and there's a turnaround for folks that are, if they're not meant to go into one of those, they can easily turn around, no problem. Also, it's very consistent. Most of these facilities don't have near the, security, attention to detail and stuff that we're going to make sure it's a holistic approach and so forth. Normally, there's nonchalant. You would know if it's a tool and die shop or cannabis or so forth. But.
Is there someone here that can run
Okay. And again, the purple is where you're proposing to put the cannabis production?
No, that'd be the production would be in the blue in the back. And then in the front, there won't be much cannabis at all. Maybe if they get approved, again, there's competition, but in the front, right where the existing restaurant is, that would be proposed for one, but if the project is not contingent on that, if that doesn't be successful, if they don't get one, then most likely a fast casual restaurant is what the interest is for that one.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Waterman, please.
Yes, so I'll keep my comments short since it's been a long evening, as you remark, and this seems to be lots, but well explained. So just to, only comments I want to make are that when medical marijuana came to Pontiac, we certainly, in the Planning Commission, supported this, wanted to make it an avenue for economic development in the city of Pontiac. So it is a business that has been accepted by the residents of the city of Pontiac, and we are moving forward on that. Certain dates that people don't know, we'll put this out. The provisioning center applications are due to be, the 21-day window to accept them is starting September the 9th. So for those who are out there and are interested in that is a date we can remind people. In addition to the fact, something that also came up that I'll just put out over the airways for those who are listening and interested in this particular topic, the Marijuana Regulatory Agency associated with LERA is coming to town. They want to do a seminar on August the 21st, which is a Wednesday, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So those who are interested in that, they're coming particularly to talk about the adult use, which Pontiac has not opted into yet, but they also will give us a chance of the city of Pontiac to talk about our implementation and what our ideas about medical marijuana in the city of Pontiac. So that's going to be at the Ruth Peterson Center on Baldwin, which happens to be in one of our overlay districts, too. So that conveniently fits. So I just like to put that information out for general knowledge. I think we are looking forward to not only the economic development but this industry will bring, but also to the potential jobs and also to the community benefits that we will bring along. And I'm hearing, nobody has set an application in, but I'm really excited, as mayor, as other residents are, about the community benefits that will be available. And that's going to be something that will be quite well received.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Parlow, please.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for the interest in that parcel. How long has it been sitting like that, Dane?
20 years, easy.
Yeah, long time. So thank you for the interest. A couple questions. You mentioned robotics on the site. Is that tying into the medical marijuana as well?
No, it's a different user. I don't know if you guys want to share about the tenant or.
Just a possible use, light industrial.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Joe
just-
Brown, 14156 Houghton, Livonia. It is a possible tenant that will also be allowed to work in that space if it's zoned in that light industrial zoning.
Okay.
So not related to cannabis, different robotics, who's as facilities already here in Pontiac to consolidate.
Oh, okay, great. Well, that's good to know. You're planning
And
ahead.
expand, not just consolidate, expand.
Good, that's great. And then curious question, have any of you been involved in this industry before? Is this all something new for everybody?
We have.
And so, go ahead on your operations side.
Manuel Ferriulo, 4234 Bald Mountain Road, Auburn Hills, Michigan. Me and Joe have been partnered for about 3 years, studying the industry. We've done a lot of stuff with real estate in the industry, and we've partnered with some people who are operators, but we want to be just developers and go out and find properties and redevelop them. And so that's been our thing for the last 3.5 years.
Okay. So that's all been in Michigan so far? Have you been doing it out of state too?
Just Michigan.
Okay. Okay. Great. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Payne, please.
Well, good evening, and thank you for your patience and being interested in the city of Pontiac. I wanted to just make a few comments in regards to, I appreciate the fact that you had the vision, and the property there, I think, is a very good piece of property that you have. And for you to kind of go in and take a look at that and say, this is good. I mean, with everything that's going on there, I think that's having a good eye for development. I look at the trees in the back. I mean, you've got all kinds of things that's going on around there, which is great. And I think that normally what we do is ask our developers, normally they come in and we say, well, we really would like for you to go to the community, see what the community is thinking about. My understanding from the letter that I kind of read, I kind of took that as that's what you were doing, is trying to engage the community. So I really appreciate that. I don't know what that outcome was, or I didn't go because I didn't want to, be mixed in the conflict of interest here, but I think that it's great for developers to engage themselves within the community to kind of see where the citizens of the community minds are and what they would like and what they would support, because you want to have a business here that that's going to be supported by the residents and perhaps other people that are living outside of the city of Pontiac. And I think that your ideas, your visions are right on target, because there is no city that is in greater need of a food market than the city of Pontiac. So thank you for that. And
Thank you.
that's all I have to say.
I already made my comments. This is a lot split. We can't get to the site plan till we do the lot split. So I'm in favor of the lot split, so we can get down to the development issues. So may I have a motion, please?
I would like to make a motion to approve the lot split and lot combination of existing lots, parcel numbers 64-14-21-383-004 and 005 and 006 and 007 and 641428126047 into two parcels. Parcel A described as part of the southwest quarter of Section 21 T3NR10E, City of Pontiac, Oakland County, Michigan, and Parcel B described as part of the southwest quarter of Section 21 and part of the northwest quarter Section 28 T3NR10E, City of Pontiac, Oakland County, Michigan, including lots 87 through 98 of Assessor's Plat Number 145, as recorded in Liber 15, page 52, Oakland County Records, and lots 18 through 45, lots 47 through 61, and lots 64 through 70 of Wilkinson and Wynn's subdivision as recorded in Liber 22, page 13, Oakland County Records.
Thank you very much. May we have a second and a support?
Second.
Okay, any further comments or questions before we go to roll call? Mr. Gustafson, roll call, please.
Commissioner Parlov.
Yes.
Commissioner Payne.
Yes to approve.
Mayor Waterman.
Yes.
Chair Dane Thomas.
Yes.
And Commissioner Northcross.
Yes.
5-0. Approved.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you on round two, as they say.
Mr. Chair, looks like there's a lot of supporters who came for this particular agenda item, so before they maybe make a mass exodus, I would like to recognize Eddie McDonald, the esteemed Eddie McDonald from the McDonald family, who is here, has worked with a number of statewide organizations, and we're happy to see him back in town.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, we come to the last, or the final two items. As a friendly reminder to everyone, we're at the 3.5-hour mark, and I'm sure everyone would kind of, so for both everyone here and everyone out there, let's kind of move it along, if we can, so, in a pleasant way, in a respectful way. So anyhow, so without further ado, the next item is PS 19-31, 860 East Walton Boulevard, and Mr. Gustafson will present.
Actually,
This one.
Mr. Donovan Smith will present.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
So this is our city planner, Donovan Smith.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. The case before you is a ground sign placement. It is PS 1931. It is on behalf of the Northern Sign Company. It is, the development is Windsong Apartments, thank you. They are requesting to install a ground-mounted sign along Walton to their east entrance, highlighted by the yellow star, it's late. Highlighted by the yellow star. The way our zoning ordinance describes and permits ground-mounted signs, each time one is requested, the Planning Commission must provide an approval for its location. So that's what they're requesting. If you go back one slide for me, Vern, just some details about it. It does meet, nope, that's fine. The details and definitions of the sign do fall within the zoning ordinance requirements for height, total square footage. It does fall outside of the designated clearance triangle for ground-mounted signs. And as mentioned, it does fall below the required and maximum thresholds for ground-mounted signs in the R3 multifamily district. And that would conclude that presentation. And I don't know if their applicants are here today. They may not be.
Okay. I'll go to my fellow commissioners to fire away questions at Donovan Smith. So off you go, Commissioner Northcross.
Okay. This sign, where will it be located? Exactly, what type of setback and?
The setbacks for, not all the signs, ground-mounted signs require setbacks in our ordinance. I believe signs located in R3 do not require setbacks. And there are other categories that also don't require setbacks for ground-mounted signs.
That's kind of a weird intersection there. In the road seems to be lower, much lower than the connecting Walton Boulevard, and it's also on a sloping. There's a slope there to the left. You're going up a hill. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting in my car looking, and you have that traffic. You do get little, what I call bubbles of traffic, where cars are stopped at one light and they're stopped at the other light. It kind of appears to give you a way of getting in and out. But boy, I was saying, if you ever get out of sequence there, looking, you may have trouble looking west to see cars that are approaching your intersection. Mm-hmm. That would be like just to the east of that sign.
Right.
And because it is sloped down, that line of sight really looks like it might be impaired unless the sign is kind of set back
The clear vision criteria for ground-mounted signs for that drive specifically is 10 feet off the inside and 10 feet off the front. 10 feet off the sidewalk and then 10 feet off the drive.
10 feet off the sidewalk?
Yes.
Right.
And that forms,
Property line.
that is what forms that triangle.
Okay.
So
They have to be, yeah, correct. They have to be positioned out of there, so concerns regards to grades and all of that will be cleared from that.
yes, they will be outside of that
I'm
10.
looking, yeah, 10 feet. Yeah, I'm looking at some of the pictures I took. Yeah, 10 feet will make that.
Yes.
I just couldn't.
Yeah, that's an approximate general location of where it'll be.
Oh, okay. That answers all my questions.
Thank you.
Okay, very good, thank you. Mayor Waterman, please.
Yes, I was able to follow along the description on Commissioner Northcross's iPad, so I have no questions to fire at you, Donovan, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner Parlow, please.
No questions.
And I'd also like to recognize you getting up right now, the great Alex Shorter, a great athlete from Pontiac Central, Western Michigan University, and the Cleveland Browns, and he properly beat up Pontiac Northern when I was there in due fashion, but he's still a great man, and good to see you, Alec. I'll see you soon, and come to the car show.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Parlow, please.
No questions.
Commissioner Payne, please.
I would just like to welcome that new look. It looks like it's a sign that's kind of been there for a little while, so I think that it would be an asset to the public and the roads that's passing by, so good.
I agree.
Good, I'm glad for them.
I think it's a great-looking sign. Let's go. Let's have a motion.
All right, I'm making a motion. I make a motion regarding PS 19-31. I make a motion to approve the sign placement review application SP 1931 from Northern Sign Company, 860 East Walton Boulevard, parcel number 64, 1415, 102-001 for the proposed Windsong Apartments ground-mounted sign.
Okay, thank you. Second support, okay. Any further comments, question before we go to roll call? Mr. Gustafson, roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Parlow.
Yes.
Commissioner Northcross.
Yes.
Chair Dane Thomas.
Yes.
We have Mayor Waterman
Yes.
and Commissioner Payne,
Yes to approve.
5-0.
Great job, Donovan. Unanimous decision.
Thank you. I'm going to go and install my sign.
Record time tonight, on top of it. Yay!
And
Congratulations.
Just wait for this one.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go.
We're on the speed dial now.
All right, commissioners, it gets better.
Yes.
Next case we have.
1932, Mr. Donovan Smith will present.
Thank you. The next case we have is also a ground-mounted sign. Its planning number is PS 19-32. This is actually for the Oakland County School of Excellence, if I got the name right. No, I'm sorry, Academy of Media and Technology. And if you actually go to the next slide, they are proposing 3 signs. This property has 3 frontages. They have one on North Cass, they have a frontage on Woodward Avenue, and then they also have a 3rd frontage on Cesar Chavez. The zoning ordinance permits in the C3 district 1 sign per frontage. So with their 3 frontages, they are requesting 3 signs to be located. Now you can go back 1 slide, please. This larger sign that you see that has the number 2, that would be facing Woodward. So as you're going around the curve to your right, if you look to your right, you would be able to see that sign. If you're also going around that curve and before you get to the school, you make a right and go down Cesar Chavez, to your left, you would see these smaller signs labeled 1 and 3. And if you were to continue around that curve, you would hit North Cass and you would make that right. At that drive, on your right, you would also see the smaller sign labeled 1 and 3. That is their request. If you go to the next slide, please, Vern. One more, please. I'm just going to jump to the bottom, then I'm going to go up. The 1 and 3 signs, so the smaller ones, those signs located on Cass and Cesar Chavez, they also meet the requirements of our zoning ordinance as it relates to sign dimensions and size. They are roughly 18 total square feet, including the gap between the ground and the actual sign. So the sign is actually a lot smaller. And it is below the height limit, so the height is capped at 8 feet. These signs are 4 and some change. The sign along Woodward is obviously a bit larger. It is 40 total square feet. It is a little shorter to the ground, so that gap is a lot smaller, so most of that sign is comprised of that 40 total square feet. As mentioned, based on our zoning ordinance, properties in the C3 district are permitted to have one street sign or one ground-mounted sign per street frontage. They are requesting the 3. And as mentioned, all 3 signs do meet the criteria of the zoning ordinance as it relates to size, dimensions, and the clear vision triangle for ground-mounted signs. And that concludes that presentation.
Okay, very good. Go to my fellow commissioners for comments and questions. Commissioner Northcross, please.
No questions.
Okay, Mayor Waterman, please.
No comments. Education is good.
Okay, Commissioner Farrell, please.
No questions.
Commissioner Payne, please.
Well, I guess no questions, but I do, it just seems like that would be kind of like an kill, but no questions on it, but, okay.
Well, you did good, Donovan. You pretty much got through this without any questions, like,
On the roll.
Great job of putting this together. Let's put this up to a vote. Can I have
I'd like to make a motion.
If I may?
Yes.
Ms. Parlov?
Yes.
If you could, it should say Oakland County Academy.
Oakland County Academy of Media.
And Technology.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm ready to whip through this. Okay. I would like to make a motion to approve the sign placement review application PS 19-32 from Creative Design and Services, 48980 Woodward Avenue, parcel number 641429252032 for Oakland County Academy of Media and Technology ground-mounted sign.
Okay, may I have a second and support?
Second.
Okay, we have motion, second, support. Any further comments or questions before we go to roll call? Mr. Gustafson, roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Parlov.
Yes.
Mayor Waterman.
Yes.
Commissioner Payne.
Yes, to approve.
Commissioner Northcross.
Yes.
And Chair Dane Thomas.
Yes.
Okay, 5-0.
Congratulations, Donovan, you're 2-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Perfect batting record tonight. Come on back next month.
I'll be back.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that finishes the petition part of our, proposal part of our Planning Commission meeting. We go to public comment, so I'm going to open public comment. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
They cut you off.
And try it again. Donovan?
Matt Farrell.
There you go.
8722 South Shore Drive, Clarkston, Michigan. First comment is thank you very, very much. It's late in the evening. We appreciate you and your services to the community. The healthy dialogue earlier this evening was great. So we welcome that and looking forward to a collective, congenial working relationship to move forward on the planning on Lakeside. The second comment, and the reason why I stood up this evening, is to make the following comments. You're embarking on a very interesting process with the medical marijuana in downtown and through your other communities. As an expert in the real estate space, which I've been in for over 20 years, it's been voted in, you've accepted it, now you're working through the process of approving who you choose to approve based on the merits of their applications. I'm not involved in that process. I don't desire to be involved in that process. But what I am seeing and witnessing and watching and how it's affecting your downtown is very real. And that is over 30 properties have been tied up under option or under contract in the downtown setting over the last 6 to 7, 8 months. I only encourage and implore each of you and your constituents to please work through the process as expeditiously and as effectively as possible. Because all other meaningful businesses like technology companies, office users, apartment users, restaurants, are not able to make sensible real estate and pragmatic real estate decisions or business decisions and come in and out of town because of what's going on. So there will be 5 victors in that process in downtown. There will be 25 to 30 failures in that process. And the faster we get through this in the healthiest way possible, it'll be healthy for the city, and it'll be healthy for the progression of all the positive change that you have going. So I only express that. I'll be happy to put stats around it if you ever wish. But thank you again. I know it's late in the evening. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Very wise words of wisdom. Thank you. Any other further comments? Yes, Mary.
I have one. Hi, you guys. I have one closing comment, and it's only because it is so important, and it is regarding the medical marijuana and the people coming to speak and to apprise people of what's going on. Ruth Peterson is not in the overlay district. Ruth Peterson is on Jocelyn. The overlay district is on Baldwin, that's correct. But Ruth Peterson is on Jocelyn, and that is not in the overlay district. So when we spread that information, I know that there are oversights, but we need to be accurate with the information.
You're correct.
As you said before, education is a wonderful thing.
Sure is.
Have a good night, everybody. And thank you for approving everything you did tonight.
Thank you very much. Are there any other further public comments? Donovan or Vern, could I ask you to put up kind of my case here, if you will?
There.
Everybody well, that's here, and I trust maybe there's some people that are watching at home, but I was born and raised in a neighborhood which is now called GM Modern Housing, basically between Perry Street and what used to be the old Oakland Motor, Pontiac Motor Manufacturing Plant. And anyhow, it's 100 years old this year. And it was built for what was originally Oakland Motor, that morphed into Pontiac Motor in 1929. That plant opened in 1926, and that neighborhood was built for them. So when I finished my corporate odyssey that took me across the U.S. and Asia Pacific, I came back here with a mantra to basically say, quote, I came back to give back. So since coming back, I started a 501c3. We built block clubs. We had 17 vacant derelict houses. We've restored 9. We only got 8 left. We've conducted holiday parties, picnics in the park. We erected a pavilion in the park. We had a reforestation project. We removed 20 dying trees, took out 28 stumps out of Oakland Park, trimmed 40 trees, and planted 90 boulevard trees where trees once grew. And we're just getting started. Last year, we had an idea is that, you know, that this park is adjacent to, again, Oakland Motor, Pontiac Motor Plant, and they're gone. But the idea is to celebrate the automotive history. So we put together a car show in the park, and last year we had about 90 exhibitors. We had about 150 spectators. We grilled hamburgers and hot dogs, and we had 50-50 raffle, and we sold hats and T-shirts. Sadly, do we have that flyer? That was part of it as well?
No, that's the last.
Okay. All right. So anyhow, there's also a flyer. There it is. Okay. So you see up there, you can, I'm proud to say I created a brand called Made in Pontiac. So we got hats and T-shirts, and you can go to that website, and any money that you contribute goes to the GM Modern Housing Facility. Soon, in very near term, we're going to be adding sweats and hoodies and polos and a lot of other gear, but we partner with this with Earth to Earth. But anyhow, so the car show in the park, the second annual now, is Sunday. So it's from noon to 4, once again, grilling hot dogs and hamburgers. One of the things with regard to most car shows, and I'm not a car show geek, but, you know, they go out on a hot asphalt parking lot in 92-degree weather, and we got a 15-acre park with 100-year-old oak trees, and they don't need to bring a canopy. All they got to do is sit back and enjoy an afternoon in the park. We got a DJ. He'll play everything from country and western to R&B to light jazz and whatever. So I hope that you'll come out to the car show in the park on Sunday. And for the group that is looking to become a neighbor in the neighborhood, this is the kind of thing I was trying to direct you to, because this is where this is where your audience is, not at a casual soiree on Saturday night. It's at an afternoon in the park. That's your market right there. So anyhow, so I hope you come out, and again, go online, Made in Pontiac, and we'll keep you posted. We're going to be adding more items to this online store, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, any further comments, questions?
Well, just very quickly, this is part of the larger event called Pontiac Power Week, which actually is coming up this Saturday with Roadkill powered by Dodge. That's the drag racing on Woodward with the bleachers already up on place on M1 Concourse. So we started it out with Dream Cruise, added on the Saturday before the Roadkill powered by Dodge. And last year it brought 40,000 people, visitors to the city of Pontiac, coming to see M1 Concourse in the city of environs. So this year, we have a number of events during Pontiac Power Week. That's on Sunday. When we started out calling it Pontiac Power Week, we euphemistically called it that. And gradually, as this has become a destination now event, we have filled up the week with other events. So that's all on our website. It's also on Pontiac Power Week website. We invite everybody to come and participate. Things that are going on downtown are Pontiac Pit Stop, and there are now about 13 or 14 businesses that are offering special opening and events on Friday evening. There's, for the first time, the Silent Disco Party in Hidden River Park and the West Alley. So we're adding on a lot of different features of food, fun, frolic for everybody, plus the traditional Dream Cruise around Woodward Loop right here in Pontiac.
And everyone should know, this planning commission approved, under a lot of controversy, the very first one. And if we hadn't have done that, this event would now be in Auburn Hills or Ferndale or Berkeley. So anyhow, but that's yesterday's news. It's a great event. I think they had almost, I thought it was like 30,000 last year. Anyhow, 20, 30, pretty soon you're talking big numbers, so.
It's going every year.
Yeah, so.
Quick one.
Yes.
How do we get our master plan revision process rolling? And I think this is probably more for Vern and Madam Mayor. I think it's time. In fact, we're probably past time to do this. And with all of the things that are going on in the city, I think this is an ideal time for us to start that visioning process, include our citizens, and understand what's happened since the last time we tried it, and talk about where we want to go.
I don't want to make Vern cry, but there's a lot of stuff going on all at the same time, and that's one of them. We are now trying to complete the Parks and Recs master plan. That is going on. Vern is still working on the zoning ordinance revisions to match the last master plan. So, plus we have the complete streets plan that we finished, and a number of other things that he's working on right now. So. We'd like to have that be an inclusive process like we did last time.
Yes.
And not just have him sit in a corner and write it. That was so productive and yielded such a good product. So it's coming, but there's a lot of things on his plate and on our plate as a city yet.
And also my commission coming up too, so.
Yeah, whatever I can do, I'm willing to do it now. I don't know if I'll do it right, but I'm willing to jump in there and try and give a hand however I can, because I think it's very important. I'm really want to keep us moving. Advocacy is good. We need advocacy, but we also need, as a city, to start thinking about administration and growth. And I see the master planning process and other things as being part of that growth as a community, to look both at what we don't want to do and what we do want to do, and how we can talk about how to get it done.
Right.
And I think it's a good time to foster those discussions.
And I would echo that, and I think that from our initial discussion that we had at the beginning of our meeting, I think it's going to spark some conversations and direction and moving forward on many fronts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Unless there are any further comments or question, may I have a motion for adjournment, please?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a second and support.
Second and support.
Any further comments or questions?
No. Good night.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you.
You can vote from out there, too.
Thank you, Justin.
I am not.